There is an unseen realm going on right now. Obviously, a lot of people want to talk about it because it's cool, it's hip. It's one of those things that a lot of people just want to put right in front of you and say, oh, there's demons and there's angels and everyone's going around and there's a war and you can't really see it and everything else. But until you've actually encountered that, which I have about 2 years ago, you don't really believe in it. I didn't forever until about 2 years ago when I opened the doors. I've talked about that a couple of times on my testimonial, which you can see on this channel. However, today I'm going to actually reflect on those 25, 30 years where I was actually doing the will of the dark side and unknowingly doing it. And I'm not talking about overt knowing I'm doing this, but it's covert and it's something that it was accepted, society accepts it. It's what other people are doing. And I myself want to do more of an Augustine style, St. Augustine style of confessions, but also talk about things that are probably going to be not only affecting you, but doing the will of the evil will actually bring in other sins into your life, which I have an example literally yesterday where I was walking around New York City and just out of nowhere, I just had this spiritual attack. And I talked about it, ironically enough, on TikTok, and I said, it came out of nowhere. And I've never really talked about Satan and the demons and anyone else like that because it just doesn't make sense. And it's one of those things that when you start talking about it, people have questions about it, but I don't want them to look it up, but then I want them to be aware. So let's get into a couple of things. The first thing is, yes, there's an unseen battle and it's for your soul. That's it. They could care less if you're a millionaire or you're making minimum wage. They can care if you're someone who has status or doesn't have status. They could care if you are, again, a CEO or you're the janitor, the maintenance staff, or you're at a toll booth, or you're the president. They could care less. A soul is a soul. That's really what they care about. Steal, kill, destroy, lie, any way to get you into the fiery hell that is known as the separation of God, which isn't talked about. So I'm going to be a little bit honest here, and I'm going to be talking about something on these items that I did, and then what is the complete opposite. I'm also in the middle of a 33-day consecration to Jesus through Mary. And in here, they actually have a devotion. So they split it into 3 parts. This is what the devotion to Mary was a couple of days ago. The devils, obviously they didn't talk about demons and Satan. They just said the devils. Everything is the same when it comes to the evil side. The devils, who are skilled thieves, wish to surprise us unawares. They literally talk about us as ignorant unawares. We're just unaware. We have no idea this is happening. This is completely obvious for everyone throughout all of history until right now. And then we come along and we just say, oh, it doesn't exist. It's all materialism. There is no creation. There is no God. It just came from the Big Bang. How we came from the Big Bang, nobody knows, but it just came from the Big Bang. The devils, who are skillful, and what I've noticed is that, and they'll continue, is that regardless of your piety or your chastity or your devotion to Mary or Jesus or the Father or the Holy Ghost or your guardian angel or any saints in heaven right now, is they're waiting for that one small hiccup. That's it. They're just waiting. They're just holding their hands together and just saying, give me that one moment, that one thought, that one just lustful desire, that one pleasure, that one, where did that even come from? Kind of even questioning of your thoughts, which I just even had. I'm like, I don't even know where that thought came from. Like, that is not my original thought. That is being pushed into my brain. And I personally think it's being pushed into my brain because it's been probably 2 months, about 2 months since I've been to confession, and it's a very long time for me, but I haven't committed a mortal sin. However, the venial sins have been adding up, and that has been on my heart for almost a week and a half to 2 weeks, to go to confession and to confess these venial sins. And I think what is happening, before I get into my list, is that I am doing the will unknowingly of, I'm doing my consecration, I'm doing my rosary, I'm going to daily Eucharist, I just came from Mass, And then there's also these like random little thoughts or these glances over at a woman, or maybe there's something on Instagram, or there's something, there's these little, but then it adds up. And now you're starting to snowball the venial sins until there's a mortal sin, and then a mortal sin. So for us as Catholics, especially as Catholics, we have to go to confession. Obviously, if you're Protestant, you're a non-believer, you have to repent. You have to repent. And as often as possible. For me is I repent as often as possible. They do an examination of consciousness every single time you read, which is every single day, all 33 days. You have to do an examination of consciousness, which is good. Conscience, consciousness. I can't believe I just said consciousness. Conscience. And essentially, the devils call us unaware. They call us, they're essentially saying, you dumb idiots. I've been around since Jesus Christ was on Calvary, and you think you're gonna outsmart me because of your piety, because of your chastity? No, I'm brilliant. That's their pride, that they were so prideful that they fell from heaven. The devils who are skillful thieves wish to surprise us unawares and strip us. They watch day and night for the favorable moment. Think about that for a second. When I was a Protestant, I was coming into the belief that there is a God. I was being paid, or there was webinars that my spiritual advisor was paying me to go on because I didn't have any money. So he's just like, go on these webinars. It's talking about devils and demons and casting out demons, and that you can do it, and she's done it, and the spiritual realm is real. And she talked about something very interesting. She said there's something called watchers, whether it's real or not, or I choose to believe that there's clearly demons, millions of demons all around. And I forgot the saint that said that if all the demons went up into the sky, it would block out the sun and it would be as dark as night. That's how many demons are on earth, just roaming around, seeking the ruin of your souls, as the St. Michael of the Archangel prayer says. They watch day and night for the favorable moment. So to put a little buttercup bow cap on that story I was just saying, is that this Protestant in this webinar said something very interesting, made me think the whole time, is that not only is God with you when you're doing your disgusting things, those mortal sins, but the devil and the demons are also watching. So they're sitting there like, ooh, this is how we got him. This is what we did to get him into alcoholism, or talking bad about his her husband or his wife. This is how we got him to take ayahuasca or pot, or put them into an altered state through some party drugs. This was an easy way that we can get him to watch illicit material, have her act on the illicit material, if you know what I mean. So essentially, day and night, they're waiting and watching, and the Protestant belief was that there are watchers. They can't do anything, these demons, but they watch, and then they communicate to the higher level demons that then can do something once you open the door, willingly or unwillingly, into a mortal sin. For that end, they go around about us incessantly to devour us and to snatch us in that one moment by sin, all of the graces and all of the merits we've gained for many years. For many years, we have all these graces, all of this chaste, and we're living so pious, and we're fasting, and we're praying, and we're doing everything right, and God is pleased by us. But those demons are just sitting there, and they're waiting for that one slip up, that one anger, that one pounding of the table, the one just talking absolutely terrible about a colleague, and then you just get angry in traffic, and then you're short with your spouse, and then you yell at your kids, and then the demons just, they come in, and you're like, what is going on? You have no idea, but it was just this lead up through the whole day. You've been amazing for all these years, but they're waiting for that one moment, that one 30-minute area where you just have a slip up. And that was almost me yesterday, where I was just spiritually attacked for 30 minutes. I'm just walking around the most crowded city in the United States, New York, and I'm just getting attacked just mentally, and it's like, don't go to church. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on? I'm just walking down Broadway. It's a beautiful day out. I'm like, I need to go inside. I was supposed to go out, drop my stuff at Whole Foods, which I did, and then go to church, the 12:15 Mass. And I was just getting, boom, just bombarded with these thoughts, these lustful thoughts that I'm like, this is not me. I'm experienced enough, I'm mature enough that I understand this is not me, these are not my thoughts. I cannot walk into church like this as a disgusting, thoughtful sinner. I'm not going to be able to just walk in. It's just going to be cleansed off of me. So I went back to work. I then came to the realization that silence, no cell phone, have to be away from people, nothing, and just go through the spiritual cleansing of being in the Word, being in my mind, being in the repentance. Think of the Lord, think of the love, think of what He did, Calvary, going through the Rosary, going through each of the sorrowful mysteries, and then you just seriously. I got back to so 12:15 is the Mass. I was being bombarded before that for at least 20 minutes, and then it took me another 30 minutes, so it's about 50 minutes. And then at 12:45, I am just totally cleared, totally clean, like nothing happened. It was kind of like an alcoholic, which I have some experience in, unfortunately, being just this desire to go into a bar. And then out of nowhere, you just go, oh, okay. No, actually, I don't feel like it. You go, what the heck was that? 50 minutes ago, I was just ready to, act on these desires in the middle of the day in New York City. And then you're like, what the heck was that? It was an attack. And then sure enough, at night, you start talking about the attack, and then you're like, maybe they were trying to attack you so you sinned mortally, so you couldn't go to church, you couldn't get the Eucharist, and then you wouldn't talk about it on TikTok. I don't know. I don't know what the plans are, but I know that wasn't me. And the reason I say that is they were waiting for that slip up on my behalf. It could be years, and they're waiting for that one 30-minute moment, that one 10-minute moment, that one little slip up. Their malice, their experience, their goal, their number one goal is fear, misfortune, and immensely to have every single person who is fuller of grace than we are, richer in values, better founded in experience, far higher exalted in sanctity, to have been surprised, robbed, and unhappily pillaged. Let me just say that in layman's terms. They are cunning, they are relentless. These are the demons. They are relentless, they're malice, they've experience, they've numbers, they've years, and they're waiting for that one misfortune for someone who's higher in grace than us, richer in virtue, better founded, better experienced, better exalted in sanctity, and then they surprise, rob, and unhappily pillage that person. I haven't even gotten over the entire list that I want to talk about, but this was such a shock to me. And the reason being is when it comes to sadness and change, there is no lack of grace on there. They could care less. They hate you. They hate you. So they want you fallen from grace any way possible. That's why the title of this is How They Use You to Destroy Creation. They can't create. They can't create. The demons, they can't create. So they have to use you for their creation. They have to use you to destroy God's creation, whether it's through society, whether it's through the family or friendships or love or piety or fasting or chastity, any of the good virtues. Just obedience to the Lord, praying to the Lord, fasting for the Lord, being in the Word with the Lord. But no, they want to have someone come into your life to distract you, which is one of the biggest items here on the list of use to do the will of Satan and all of the demons. Continuing on is, there is no lack of grace, there is no lacking of man, but there is potentially a lack of humility. In other words, we are so prideful sometimes, myself included. I'm so prideful sometimes. Oh, I did the rosary, I did my consecration for the day, I'm good. I don't need to fast, I don't need to pray, I don't need to... Oh, I received the Eucharist, I listened piously to the homily, first and second readings, and of course the gospel. I'm good. That is pride. That is pride. That is the ultimate I don't need, which is also on this list. So in the comments, what have you gotten so far? Because I haven't even started the list. This is so near and dear to my heart because we don't talk about this from the pulpit. Nothing, and strike me down if it's out of my place, which it probably is, because I don't have the authority. I'm not a priest. I'm not a deacon. I am nothing but just a layman. There is not enough fire and brimstone from the pulpit. It's what it comes down to. There is not enough fire and brimstone from the pulpit. When I was coming into the faith and I was surrounded by Protestants, and Protestants were leading me to the faith and telling me all about the demons and the dark side and how much Satan hates you and they want to kill, steal, and destroy you. And they're going to lie, and they're going to tell you alcohol is good. They're going to tell you that pleasure in yourself is good, and that watching illicit material is good, and OnlyFans is not a big deal because it's not hurting anybody. All that is a lie. All that is relativism, which I have a video coming up on. That is the biggest lie that the Reformation came out with. The biggest lie that the Reformation, yes, of course, the protesters, but the relativism in that nothing matters, there's no truth, subjective truth, my truth, your truth, there is no the truth. That is the worst thing that can happen, because then they came out with, well, it's not hurting you. Who cares if I do all these sinful behaviors or I act behind closed doors? It's not hurting you. Yeah, it is, actually, because you then re-enter society as a sinful human and then corrupt everybody else. That was me for my entire adult life, living in New York City, which I have a pretty good idea of how sinful we could be as someone who has been gainfully sinned mortally for decades here my entire adult life. So I'll leave this here, but the biggest thing that I have to say is there is a whole realm that is not talked about, that was talked about 100 years ago. To put a button on what I was just saying, is that the Protestants 100 years ago were all talking about this. Obviously, the Catholic Church invented all of it, because we are the body, the one true, holy, divine institution instituted by Jesus Christ, given to the authority of Peter. But 100 years ago, all Protestants were talking about was hell. That's all they were talking about. You're a sinner, you need to repent. It was publicly called out. I'm listening to R.C. Sproul's, I'm listening to a lot of these old school sermons, and I'm just like, why don't we have this? Why? These are on fire Protestants, Lutherans, Anglicans, Presbyterians, Episcopalians, all these on fire. There was none of these non-denominational nonsensors, but these were like true high church Lutheran, Anglican style preaching, where it was saying it was all about hell. Of course God is love, but you're going to have to take an exact account of your life. So moving into the first area is, this was the number one lie told to me, told to the world, is that your success is your salvation. Your success is your salvation. In other words, who cares about anything else? Just be successful. Just get a nice house. Just get cars. Where does your kid go to school? Where is he going to college? Is he in private school, or is he in public school? What sports is he playing? Are they on the travel team? Is the travel team making states? Is the states actually winning? It's all about just a disgusting amount of pride, again, jealousy. There's just envy. There's an innumerable amount of, say, chasing of status, money, validation, and you are not only spiritually dead, but you're addicted. You're addicted to what you are doing. You're addicted to what your kids are doing. You're addicted to followers, comments, engagement. You're addicted to money, status, fame. You're addicted to how unbelievable your body's now into shape, or the makeup that you did if you're a woman, or how well you're dressed is as a man. You look in the mirror and you just have vanity all over, just draped all over you. And this is how I was used, is because my first 15 years of living in New York City was all about, where's the restaurants, where are the clubs you're getting into, who do you know, who's at the club, did you have to pay to get in, did you not have to pay, did you skip the line to get into the club? That's all it was about. That's all it was about. It was about just success. By the way, and I'm going to bring up something that is still just lingering in my mind almost weekly, which is my grandfather was denied from the priesthood because he was not qualified enough. The guy already spoke like French, Latin, English, and it was either German or Italian, or the guy knew languages. He knew theology. He was brilliant. And he was denied because at that time, in the early, about 1900 and before, is that an open heart surgeon, that success was to be a priest. That was what we call success in a family. Your son's a priest? We can't even fathom that today. We're like, oh, your son's a priest? No, we can't even fathom the world that we left behind 130, 140 years ago. That was the pinnacle of someone's son was to become a priest. Number two is, I was sold that love is lust and lust is love. It's the same word. That's what I was sold on. Is that it was empowering, that hookups and freedom was the number of women that I had, the women that were in my life, the numbers I got, the non-rejections, the dates I had, the second dates, how many slept over. All of these things were sold to me as love, not lust. It's love. It's love. Just love is do whatever you want. Love is that relativism that I talked about. Love is, it's essentially using, okay, the correct definition, and I might be butchering this a little bit, but love is sacrificing yourself for someone else. You are sacrificing yourself for someone else. A small example is telling the truth. If you love someone, you tell them the truth. You tell them and be like, listen, I said this to my buddy, and I've told this example before. He came back from vacation, and I said, listen, buddy, I love you. You put on a lot of extra weight. We need to get to the gym as soon as possible. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's so mean and everything else. Okay, so the best route around this is that I don't love him, so I lie to him, or I don't tell him the truth, or I don't say anything because I don't love him. That's how distorted society is right now. That if we hurt someone's feelings, we must not love them. When forever it was, I love you, that's why I'm telling you the truth. Think about that for a second. We are lying because we don't love. We lust. And lust is using someone else, whether it's for pleasure, for gain, for your flesh, for your desires, to feel good, whatever. So let's rewind the tape. My buddy walks in because I don't love him, and because I'm now going to make sure he and I feel good. I don't tell him the truth. I lie to him. I don't say, hey, listen, we got to hit the gym and get back into weight or get back into shape. You know how he replied? He goes, I know. I'm going tomorrow. I gained almost 25 pounds. That's it. That's it. Do I love the guy? Yes. Did I tell him the truth? Yes. Remember, this is the church's teaching. Love is the truth, and truth is beauty. There's an equal sign. Beauty is love, beauty is truth. Truth is love, truth is beauty. It's synonymous. So if I love the guy, I'm going to tell him the truth. It's the same thing with beauty. Beauty is not subjective, it's objective. Moving on. I was told, and I believed, and how I carried out the will of the evil one, is that I was the answer. Wow. I could just make a whole video on this. I was the answer. I didn't need anyone else. I didn't need school. I didn't need society. I didn't need God. I didn't need the divine. I didn't need prayers. I didn't need chastity. I didn't need fasting. I didn't need the Bible. Who cares? I didn't need the church. I didn't need the Eucharist. I didn't need confession. I needed myself. That's it. I needed myself. I needed myself. Hustle culture, self-help. I've talked about it. I don't think that video has come out, or maybe it has, but self-help is not it. It's not it. I think I talked about the red pill. That came out this week. The red pill is very closely tied to self-help, which self-help was my entire channel. That's how I grew to 7,000 subscribers. I read over 1,000 books. I traveled all over the world, all over the United States, $250,000, paying all these coaches, whether it was red pill guys, whether it was Tony Robbins or Les Brown or all these big names I saw in person. I saw every single person dozens of times. I was obsessed with self-development, self-help, personal development, personal help. Where's anyone else? Where's the creator? They talk about him They don't even say him, they say the universe, which is disgusting. That's icky, okay? It's the universe. The universe is, if the universe, no, call that out. That's wrong, okay? That's sacrilege, okay? When you hear that, just say no. No, there is no universe. There's just Jesus Christ, the Father and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I said Jesus Christ and the Son, which is the same. I just get fired up at people that say, knock on wood. No, that's paganism. Any superstition is paganism. If you really look up the meaning of knock on wood, which is what the Druids did. Do you know what the Druids did? The Druids had something called the holly tree. And the holly tree had something that talked out of the tree when you knocked on the wood. And guess what was in the tree? It wasn't God. Okay? They were pagans. And guess what Hollywood is? Exactly. Knock on wood, Hollywood, any of those superstitions. The universe, karma, that's not of God. Okay? Catholics specifically, we have a higher standard. We have the one true holy Catholic and apostolic faith. We need to call this out. Okay, this isn't a joke anymore. We're not lovey-dovey's. Just lovey-dovey's, okay, is subjectivism. That's relativism. That's not the truth. The truth is calling them, I love you, and I want you to come to the fullness of the faith so you're not carrying out the will of the evil one. Okay? Because we have enough of that. And it's surrounded. All the witchcraft movies, all the witches, all these movies, all these, Harry Potter, it's all witchcraft. just marketed as like fun little child movies. No, it's witchcraft. That's what it is. Let's call it out how it is. All right. How's it going, everybody? We have a couple of people on here. Anything, just leave in the comments below. I'll get to you guys as much as possible. All right. So I'm just really fired up. I'm in a great mood. I'm going to continue. Silence. Okay. This was actually on there as well, is silence is noise to me when I was in sin. I need to distract myself. I need my phone. I need social media. I need sports. I need to read something. I need a podcast. I need self-development. I need music on. There is no silence. Silence is noise to someone who's not of God. Silence is essentially distractions, screens, and comfort. Ooh, I just got chills on that one. I couldn't get into an elevator, go from the 5th floor of my apartment building to the lobby without pulling out my cell phone. That is a max of 20 seconds. The door opens, I get on, the door needs a minimum of 4 seconds or 5 seconds in New York City, so then it closes. I go down 10 seconds, the door opens 5 seconds, that's 20 seconds of my life. I couldn't even go 20 seconds without a distraction. I couldn't even ruminate in my thoughts. I had a thought, I need to distract it. I'm not learning, I need to distract this. By the way, this isn't just like bad things like, watching, we know what we're talking about. But these are sports, needing to know what the scores are, needing to know the latest drama, or Bravo TV, some woman which courageously talked about how Bravo TV sucked her in and then she used that in relationships. That was a comment on one of my videos on social media. She would then use that, and for whatever reason, after watching Bravo TV, she would then use that at work. And she's like, why am I now talking about drama? Because I'm getting the chills. You're absorbing all of this through your eyes and your ears, and now you're internalizing this for hours. And then guess what you do? You push that out to all the people around you. For me, I was obsessed with personal development. I was obsessed. How do I get better? How am I improving? It's all about me. It's all about me. I got so far, I'm embarrassed to even say this, I got so far, it's on my Audible. I couldn't even return it because it's been so long since I started making these YouTube videos again. I have Audibles, I have 2 of them. And the book title, I wouldn't even say the book title because I don't want anyone to walk up there. The book title literally said, because I was into non-dualism. Non-dualism means that there is no separation between anything. It's I think Buddhism to the core, that you essentially are a projector screen and whatever you see is through the senses and everything else. It's non-dualism, it's oneism, there is nothing else. Everything is a projection from inside your brain. You're connected to the universe and God, and you are God. That's really the crux. I literally, not even a year and a half ago, was believing this. Probably just over a year ago, I was listening to this audiobook, and I was on the Long Island Railroad, and there was a moment where she talked about, so she got all these visions and words and downloads and everything else when she got into a certain state on a certain bed. Sounds a little weird, huh? Okay, to me it wasn't. Oh yeah, you're getting these downloaded thoughts from something that's not of God because we don't believe in God because we are God because we're connected to God. Oh, it's a mess out there. It's a mess. And I was fully on board with making sure that I was carrying out the will. And her husband would be taking notes on what she was talking about. It was, I'm not saying full possession, but if you think about full possession, like, let's go there. Let's go there. I was convinced that religion was for the weak. Okay? This is rampant all over social media. Rampant all over social media. Oh, I don't need religion. I have a relationship, says the Protestant who doesn't repent, doesn't believe in the real presence, doesn't actually have a church that goes back to Jesus Christ, that doesn't actually have anything that has to do with any of the early church fathers. Nothing to do with the early church fathers. Protestants today have nothing to do. You have to literally call them out. We're done with the protest. We need to come back into communion, okay? Yes, the Orthodox, we want them to come back into communion under Rome and submit to the Pope. That's probably never going to happen, okay? We all have our wish list, okay, that we want to send to the Lord all the time. But we need to have this protesting end, okay? I came out with a video, it went somewhat viral for me, 45,000 views, and it talks about all these Protestants that are coming back to the faith. The reason being is that Protestantism right now is just a bunch of TED Talks with a band playing, and there is no truth being spouted from that stage. It is just, give me a better car, let me open another campus, give me a bigger building, let me get better air conditioning and speakers and just entertainment. It's all about me. Talking about me, it's all about that. But religion outside of that, you see it all. I can't believe people believe in religion. You have a religion, by the way, sir, who's an atheist. Your religion is science. Science has the Big Bang, and there is no evolution, and there was no Great Flood. Oh, really? Okay, that's weird. Well, if you suspend your belief for a second and you do what I did and actually do research, there actually was a global flood at one time, and they call it pre-diluvian and post-diluvian flood, okay? And then if you believe in creation, if you believe in the Big Bang, who thought of the Big Bang? That's actually a Catholic Belgian priest from the 1800s that was talking about how existence came how creation came into existence. I don't know if I'm wording that correctly. However, they didn't take it so far and say that a single cell organism then became us over billions of years. Okay. All right. Let's also suspend the law of entropy, which needs energy to sustain chaos. Let's also say that matter cannot be created nor destroyed. That's weird. So thermodynamics, the first two laws are just completely thrown out of the books, but I believe in science anyway. That's what made me believe in a creator. We have to go back to logic. We have to go to St. Thomas Aquinas. He turned my wounds into weapons. So wounds were, I wasn't enough. I needed a better looking girl. I needed a prettier girl. I needed more parties. I needed better parties. I needed cooler people around me. I needed more money. I needed better dinners. I needed better restaurants. I needed a better apartment. I needed to be hosting the parties. I needed to be hosting nicer parties. It is a treadmill of despair, okay? You are never enough. You are never enough. In other words, whatever your wound was, I'll talk about a couple of wounds, which is not about me, but in particular, most bodybuilders, men and women, are short because they were picked on. So they become jacked, so people are afraid of them, so they don't get picked on. A lot of people that are rich right now were once really poor, so they were picked on, so they become rich in the future because they have these wounds. They have all these people I'm sorry, they have all these wounds. Many people in prison right now have wounds of being abused physically when they were younger. Okay, that was, I think, Father Dan Rehill talked about when he did prison ministry. It was almost like 90% of the guys in the prison. Okay, those are wounds that are not going to be filled by anything worldly. That is way outside of the scope in the realm, okay, of let alone what I was doing worldly things, but even going into the violence or the gangs, or I don't have a father, so I needed a father figure, so I get into red pill, or red pill is good, but then I go even further and I need a lot of women in my life and I need kids outside of marriage because I don't believe in marriage. It's all the devil. It's all lies of the devil. Continuing on. He gave me everything I wanted. I'm not done with this sentence. He gave me everything I wanted and none of what I needed. Woo! Nothing. There was no peace. There was no, all of it was distraction, comfort, lust, pride. There was no joy. There was no happiness. There was no peace. There was no contentness. People talk about happiness all the time. It's not about happiness. It's about being content with your life. Oh, I need to be happy. That's pleasure, okay? Happiness is fading. It's fleeting. It's a moment to moment. It's a joyful moment that you have with your colleagues. It's a funny, hilarious, clean joke that you go, that was funny. But if you are by yourself and you're in a state of peace, that's content. That's content. I remember one of my buddies was talking about this. He's like, dude, all you're talking about is work and hustle and everything else. You need to be at peace and you need to be happy. And what's funny is that he had the right diagnosis, which was I was chasing this treadmill of success. And ironically enough, the last 3 or 4 years, all of it has been taken away. All of it. So the bill was due to the dark side and it was paid. We'll just say that. Those videos will be coming out. But my buddy said, hey, listen, you're working too much. You need to be happy. His sense of happy was traveling, going out, experiences, concerts, things like that. So it was the right diagnosis. It was the wrong prescription. Okay? My prescription and his prescription and all prescription is not to then go to a different worldly pleasure. My worldly pleasure was work and work and work and work and then go out and party hard. His was to experience life with his wife and be at concerts, okay? This is another area. Being a good man, okay? He made me a good man. I walked around, I'm a good person. I haven't sinned that I knew of because it's nothing bad. I didn't even know what a concept of sin was. Okay, so I thought morally, because I didn't rob banks, I wasn't cheating anyone, I wasn't stealing from anyone, I wasn't doing anything crazy, I wasn't an overt liar all the time. I was an overt liar, but not all the time. And I was nice, I was hardworking, and I thought that's the Catholic belief today. That's the best way to say it. That is the Catholic belief, is that, listen, I haven't done anything really bad. I know I've gotten smoked through alcohol 90% of the days, but I haven't really done anything bad. I know I haven't contributed anything good, but I also haven't really contributed anything bad. I know I don't believe in God. However, I am also just one of the good guys. I'm just one of the good guys. Oh, you like to sin? I'm not going to call you out on it. You like to sin? I'm going to participate in it. That is the relativistic nature that we are within right now, is that whatever you deem, you yourself, not the viewers, but anyone deems is fine, we have to agree with that. We have to go along with that. That was never the case, okay? When you do, now I'm contemplating, I'm probably gonna come out with it, where there's gonna be a conspiracy, where that's gonna be in quotes, files, conspiracy files, not the whole thing in quotes, just conspiracy files. And one of them, there's a couple that are automatically gonna be making videos. The first one is that success was the ultimate measure forever, okay? No, it was actually salvation, okay? So salvation was number one forever, by the way, when you actually read about history, okay? And the second one was that people were miserable through existence, okay? Yeah, were there unhappy moments? Yes. But reading through a couple of recent books is that they could care less. I was reading, there's a book, Early Martyrs. I think that's the name of it. Actually, I don't have my bag around me, but it's Early Martyrs. I'm reading about Paul. Paul was imprisoned like 3 times for multiple years for no reason, by the way. And he never stopped. He didn't care. Multiple years. Just house in a house. And he still was preaching. He was literally locked up for no reasons and still preached. And we have no Wi-Fi and the world is going to come to an end. Okay, there's other ones where Rome never actually died. That's an easy one though. Rome never died, it just became Catholic. That's an easy one. You heard it here first. That one's been going around. Have you heard of Jazima? No. Love subjectivism. No, subjectivism is not good, okay? It is not good. Yes, same experience as secular pagan sort of speak. It is wild. I was asked yesterday, I think by a guy, literally within 12 hours ago, some guy said, "What's your sign?" Bro, I'm sorry, what? You're a grown man, you're asking me what my sign is? I was like, yeah, I don't believe in looking at stars. I literally told them that. This is at a work event, surrounded by work people. And I just called them out. That's what we need to do. I'm a little bit more blunt. I'm in New York City my whole life. My mom grew up in Queens, my dad Chicago. I'm Irish. Sorry that I'm not going to skirt around the issue. Unfortunately, since coming to Christ the last year, my mom said I was a little extreme. However, that needs to be called out. What am I going to tell her? Then the woman, because I said my birthday was coming up, and then the woman said, oh, you're a Cancer, so am I. No. I was into all of this. I believed in the 33 vertebrae. It has to do with the 33 years of Christ, and that has to do with the chakras, and that you have to go and you have to have your pineal gland, have it initiated because there's DMT, and you have to take ayahuasca. I was into that literally within the last year and a half. Okay, it's all paganism. It is so, you are opening doors. And there are people, since I started talking about it, talked about, well, it's weird. I would put my pillow in one area, and then my pillow when I woke up was across the room, and I know I didn't throw, like small things like doors were opening. You'd hear a cat that wasn't there. You'd smell smells of cigarettes no one was smoking. You'd hear all these sights and sounds, and doors would be opening and shutting, but nothing supernatural. Don't worry about it. Keep on going with my occult. All right? All of it is doing the will of the dark one. Like, we have to be cleansed so spiritually into objectivism. And listen, I know that I could do it lovingly. I went on TikTok and I put out about 20 videos and I was getting DMs, threats, bad comments. So I understand. I am to the extreme. Maybe you need a poll every once in a while. I'm going to rein it back a little bit, but the truth needs to be called out when the truth is not being spoken. What's my sign is getting called out. You're a Cancer. No, that's nonsense. That needs to be called out. I'm not relying on stars to tell me my personality. I remember when a girl that I was dating was asking, she goes, well, we normally wouldn't get along because I'm a Sagittarius and you're a Cancer. Okay, really? You don't believe that we were created. A cake arrives on your birthday. It's sitting in front of everybody. You do this, well, we won't go too far down, wishing someone a happy birthday, blowing out the candles, making a wish. We won't go too far down where that came from. But a cake arrives. You believe in the cake. You see the cake, but you don't believe there's a baker. That's the same thing. You see the creation. You believe in the creation, but you don't believe in a creator. We're at levels that education has been ripped from us. There's a great book that my mom read when she was going to college, and it was The Dumbing Down of America. I think the first edition came out in the early 1900s. Imagine that. They were talking about the dumbing down of America in the early 1900s. The second edition came in like the 50s or 60s, and then the third edition came today. I totally could be making the dates up on that. However, the book probably got stupider because we got dumber. Okay, I'm in there. I'm nowhere near my grandfather, let alone my great-grandfather. They were brilliant. They remembered things. And another thing that I totally do not believe on history is that people were stupid. Men or women. Women weren't educated. Okay, why do we have so many brilliant saints writing incredible journals? Because they believed in the divine. They believed that through the Holy Ghost, they were able to do things they were not able to do. Joan of Arc was getting told to literally lead France at age 12, okay? I couldn't even read. And this girl is literally leading men into battle and winning against the powerhouse of the time, England? You're telling me they were stupid? They were building these incredible cathedrals, writing all of this incredible liturgy? No, I do not believe they were stupid. They were way smarter, way better, way different than us. I think we're a totally dumber breed than them. Let me not get too far down. All right, just tell me if the bit rate is good. It's telling me the bit rate is, I don't know, it might not be good. Anyway, anger. Let's move on to anger. I only got a couple more before I got to pop off, plus we're at 45 seconds. Let's go with anger. So my anger, which was from a younger child, essentially was fueled into ambition, okay? It was fueled into drive, okay? There's a book that I read. I actually think I made a video about it here on this channel, and it was called Alter Ego. I can't believe what I was into. Oh gosh, Lord, cleanse my heart. Please just cleanse my heart. It was called Alter Ego, okay? It's a yellow cover. Don't even read it, because if I really think about all the books that I read and where, it's called Alter Ego, and all these players put on an alter ego. Okay, just think about this for a second from an actual Catholic perspective. They put on an alter ego before they got onto stage. And they were listening to voices and things coming through them while they're on stage. Or they're playing a sport and they had an alter ego. And they got onto the field and they were this totally different person and everything else. I don't know, that sounds a little demonic, but we don't want to go down there. But essentially, as I wrote down, is that my ambition, I thought was pure. It wasn't. Okay, my ambition was not. My rage, and I used to listen to metal hardcore from my, thank God I got away from that. If you are listening to any secular music, drop the secular music immediately, because the words in there, when I started listening to all of these just metal bands, were so satanic. And I was repeating the words as a young kid. All of that anger then went into, as I wrote down, rage and fear and pride in disguise. It was nothing holy, went into ambition. That's really what it came down to. It went into bettering myself, being smarter, being richer, being a better salesman, a better marketer, funnier, more witty, better read, able to decipher men and women's body language. I was studying all of this. Moving on, my wounds, which I already talked about, I took it on as an identity. And thank you whoever just pressed the heart. Instead of healing through Christ, I leaned into my lack of being a normal schooled child. I was the rebel. I was the partier. I was sneaking out. I was drunk for the first time at age 12, literally, on champagne, so bad that my buddy passed out, was thrown up all over the house. I had to call my mom. My mom came and was like, okay, this is a bad influence. I started then smoking cigarettes, which I haven't told anyone, so welcome to the internet. And we would be in his clubhouse smoking cigarettes, literally at the age of 12 to 13 years old. And then it got worse. I got suspended from middle school for stealing stuff. I got so many demerits and detentions and all these things from high school. Barely, an 81 average, 81.8, 81 average in high school, and then in college I had a 2.8, 2.9 total cumulative GPA. So I used that rage that I wasn't good at school for something else. Thank you, Daniel. That's my first super chat in my life. I don't even know what to do with myself right now. I'm going to donate. I was actually thinking about that because I donate every single time I go to church. I donate I donate to the box that comes around, but then I go and there's Saint Martin de Porres, which he was in. I should know this. Pray for me, Saint Martin de Porres, because there was a statue. And do you want to know the divinity with our Lord and the saints right now? So I'm coming back into the faith truly coming back about, say, 2 months ago. And I finally did, and I just recorded a video. I don't know if I said it here, maybe not, I don't know. I'm recording videos everywhere. It was my first confession where I was under mortal sin, okay? It was my first confession. It was my last confession under mortal sin. So I haven't done any mortal sin. I've done venial sins, and they've added up, and I need to go to confession. I think I already said that earlier today on this live. However, right after that confession, I walk outside, or I go and we have kneeling rail. I go to the TLMS, okay? So we have kneeling rails, and this is a 1850 church. So it's like old school. It almost shut down before COVID, and now it's revived. It is, I was going to use symbolism of Satan rising to the ashes, but that's Satanism. This is like Christ being ascended. Like, this church is now on fire and is packed, and it's beautiful to see. You very young people anyway. So I'm sitting there, and it's going to sound bad, but I'm kneeling, and it goes around. It's like a half U-shaped around the church, and there's statues of saints all around. And in front of me, I look up, and I never sit on the right side of the kneeler. I go to the front. So there's this beautiful, beautiful mosaic, and I should really bring it up. I don't have my phone. I actually should be going live on TikTok. That's what everyone, all the young kids are going to. Here it is. I don't know if it's going to come out on the live, but you'll be able to see it. So that is what I'm looking at. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. So you have the Father, you have the Holy Ghost, and you have Jesus Christ. There we go. Look at that. So you are literally kneeling right in front of that. And that's when I literally also say, by the way, come Holy Spirit, defeat all pride, defeat all lust, defeat all envy and jealousy, defeat all sloth and laziness and everything else. Just please, I say the sinner, or, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And I go over that, and I have my rosary right here, and I go through 10 decades before I go up and take the Eucharist, because I'm like, I do not want to be in mortal sin while I'm actually going up for the Eucharist. So I look up, and there is a statue of a saint with a dog. I think it's a dog at the feet, and I'm saying, that's weird, because I never not only saw the statue, but I never actually noticed that they were black. And I go, that's interesting, like full on black. Sometimes you have tan. They came from North, and I've done research, and I'll get into this, is that the greatest saints in the beginning part of the church were all in North Africa. All of them. All of North Africa was the greatest of all saints. I think St. Augustine, came from there, but also Antioch, I think. They were all from North Africa. And I don't want to go deep into conspiracy land about that, but I think there is something about that. I walk outside and I'm like, I gotta find out who that saint is. Literally, I walk outside, the whole church empties out, and everybody, says their prayers. It's very reverent. Everyone arrives at least 20 to 30 minutes early. It's quiet. It's silence. They will kick you out. You can't take photos. You can't talk. You'll be yelled at and kicked out. I was yelled at the first time. And there's now a notice on the outside that says, don't wear anything inappropriate. Literally, it says that on every single door, walking into the vestibule and then into the church. So I then walk outside. Literally, the first conversation said, who you should pray for? I'm in the circle of people that just came out of church. Saint Martin de Porres. I was like, who's Saint Martin de Porres? Oh, it's the saint, it's the black saint on the right side. What? I didn't even notice that till today, literally today. And now you're telling me to go pray to St. Martin de Porres. So now for the last 4 or 5 weeks, at the end of Mass, daily Mass, I go and I pray to St. Martin de Porres, and I look at him and I say, please, and I donate to him right then and there. I forgot how I even got on that. Thank you to the super chat, Daniel. I pray the liturgy of the hours. That's amazing. I think you or someone else actually told me to pray. Since coming into the church, all these older women have been like, you should become a priest. You know, you should. They gave me a 54-day novena. They got me started on the total consecration of Jesus Christ and Mary. So I'm a portion of the way through that. I'm about halfway. Actually, I'm on tomorrow's day 16. This is the Holy Spirit card, which is very nice. Catholic woodworker, go to them. And then they have a nice prayer on the back. But it's a good consecration. So you essentially consecrate over 33 days, some prayers, maybe, I don't know. I added in the prayers. I have 3 prayers: to find my wife, to have my children be healthy, and for the Father to provide for me when I get married, if God has that in my life. But I'm going to be chaste either way. Like, that's, every man and woman should be chaste, okay? This whole red pill nonsense, I said it, I think, this week, which is taking some steam, which is nice, 400 views or whatever. But essentially, that's the end date right there. My birthday is 3 days earlier, the feast date of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. I have to look that up. I don't know. Again, I'm all brand new to this, but I am on fire. On fire. That is a fact. Almost all the saints prayed the divine office. Wow, I didn't even know that. You're going to get a like. And I like your face. I can't even like that thing. But, I'll give you a heart. Thank you, Daniel, for the super chat. That was my first super chat in my life. I don't know what to do besides donate it to the church. That's what I just want to give. Like, when a bunch of the churches that I go to, they're all asking for money. Something like the boiler's breaking down. I just want to write checks. I don't want to write a check to, I won't even say, because it's going to sound really bad. But there's a couple of these alternate kind of healing that I can donate to, like, hospitals and research and everything else. But the church has done it right. They know how to do it when it comes to healing, prayer, fasting. Let me just get into fasting real quick before I get into these last 2 points. Fasting was almost 1/3 of the whole year. 1/3 of the whole year was feast days. That is coming out sometime next week, that video about fasting. I highly recommend you check it out. It literally is, it's called The Definitive Guide of Catholic Fasting and Abstinence. That's literally the title of the video. I am reading about this. We are soft compared to what people did. We are losers compared to the previous Catholics. They were fasting Wednesdays and Fridays, every Wednesday and Friday. Then they did it only Wednesday and Fridays during Lent. Sometimes they would also fast on Saturdays all the way to the Eucharist on Sundays. That's what I do, actually. And I highly recommend other people to do it too, is that your first meal, for me, a lot of the times during the week, my first meal is the Eucharist around 1, and then I'll eat. And ironically enough, when I was in personal development, I'm like, oh, okay, I should eat in a 4 to 8 hour window, but not outside of that. So, and by the way, this whole thing about breakfast is called breaking your fast. That's why in Europe, your big meal is in the evening, or I'm sorry, in the early afternoon, because they never had breakfast. There was no breakfast. Breakfast is breaking the fast. That's a made up concept. That's to sell you cereal and coffee and donuts and bagels. We are so far from church teaching. It makes me mad, but it also hurts my soul. It really does. That's why I'm so on fire when it comes to TikTok and YouTube, is because when I read these books, I feel like I was robbed. I was robbed from a healthy lifestyle. I was robbed from eating terrible food. I was robbed because there's something called the Black Fast. There's all these feast days, the Rogation days, the Ember days. I think I'm saying it right. Yeah, the Ember days. And what they would do is their first meal was at sunset. So if it's during the winter, the sun sets at 4:30. If it's during the summer, the sun sets at 8. That was their first meal. That was their first meal. And they would do that Wednesday and Fridays, let alone, and I'm getting chills, like the first 300 years, they were talking about all these examples of saints and people of God that would literally fast like Christ during Lent for 40 days, just on water. And we're sitting around, my mom, bless her heart, I don't want to say it. Thank you, Daniel, again, for your super chat. That will go to the church. Now it has to go to the church because I said that, and the Lord knows if I don't donate that. Well, of course, YouTube takes it, whatever they take. I don't like supporting them, or Amazon. I like supporting the Catholic, like Tan publisher. But going back to what I was saying is, this is by Tan. This is, by the way, send me a DM if you want to know this. There's certain ones that have been not good, put out, watered down Vatican II, post-Vatican II style, that someone from the church is like, I'll give you the one that you need. Don't take anything else. But when I'm reading through this, I now understand that these people early, because I was having the conversation about fasting, my mom is like, well, that's unsafe. And I'm like, she's like, but they died early. I'm like, that's even more the crazy. They were dying from war, famine, disease, animal attacks, starvation, natural death. They would be cut on the arm and bleed out. And they're still fasting for 40 days. They were still Ember, Rogation, this feast day, this feast day, this feast day. By like the year 1000, they had crazy amounts of feast days for all of these incredible saints that came before them. And as Augustine said, they built the city from stone because it's to God. And when you look at the building materials, they're using creation to build for God's creation. There's a whole thing that we've been lied to about the Catholic Church. When I was coming in and Protestants were educating me on how, the Vatican is the second coming, or it's the Antichrist and the Pope and this and it's bad. And I was like, oh, okay, I totally believe all of this. And I was. But this is the crazy part. I started looking at what things are made of today and then what things were made of back then. The housing, everything was natural, even the cement. They still don't know how the Roman Catholic, because Rome never fell, just became Catholic. That's really what it is, okay? Rome is us. We just took over their paganism and squashed it. And we said, oh, you were doing this? Done. Lord Jesus Christ. We took over all of their good and wiped out their bad. So when they're like, that was a pagan day. Yeah, okay, so if my birthday happens to fall on a pagan day, am I pagan? No, we just wiped that out, okay? I don't want to go too far deep into that, but it's all part of it. Continuing, these are the last two things, is I said this before, I continuously said this over and over and over again, which is I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not hurting anyone. I literally just came out of a family event and I heard this and I just they don't know that I'm this on fire Catholic yet. They sort of know, oh, Charles is into this like whole religion thing. No, I'm really into it. I want my soul not to be in hell. Like that is, once you start going through, and I'm serious about it, once you start watching over 100 near-death experiences of hell and over 100 near-death experiences of heaven, and they're all roughly the same, all the hell testimonials, all the heaven testimonials are roughly the same. The hell ones, they all break down. They are all emotional, and they're all roughly the same. They're being tortured. There's a lake of fire. There's screaming. There's gnashing of teeth, kind of like what the Bible says. It's weird that it's in the Bible. In the Bible, it says one little drip of water would quench their thirst, kind of like me right now. They all talked about that the pain, because you're removed, your body is essentially this suit just containing the true pain or pleasure of your soul. It's like this, the way they say it, it's this like muffled, it's kind of putting on like a muzzle or like a silencer on your soul, on feelings and emotions, and the way that they talk about it. I do recommend you, out of anything, watch the near-death experience. Just go NDE Hell, NDE Heaven. There's ones over 100,000 subscribers. There's dedicated channels that talk about this. And it scared me into Christ. Like, that needs to be talked about. What I just said, I'm not hurting anybody. Yeah, your soul. Let's talk about you for a second. You know, I went to, and I don't want to speak badly about this, but I'm about to. I went to, and I talked about it before on one of my TikToks. I don't know why I'm into making TikTok videos, but it's kind of just spouting out consciousness. I went to a funeral for someone who was an unbeliever. Essentially, they fell away from the church, and everyone gets up to talk, and they go, well, you know, he's looking down upon us. In my head, I'm not even in the church fully at all. Actually, it was before then. And I just remember looking around thinking, I'm like, this guy hated the Catholic Church. Like, he talked smack about the Catholic Church. He's a total fallen away Catholic. Like, looking down upon us. Even then, I didn't even believe in heaven or hell or eternity or afterlife or Christ, or I didn't believe in any of this, but I was like, it's kind of saying, oh, okay, this is the party where the good people go. Okay, no, seriously, no, I believe in this the whole time. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You're in active conversations. And there's near-death experiences where they talk about the preachers are an extra torment because they brought people from heaven into hell. That stinks. And this is for eternity. This isn't just a weekend and then you're like, oh, I don't want to experience that. This is for eternity. That's why I'm so passionate about this. Your job, especially as a man, and I want to call out the men, obviously women, there's a lot of things you can say, but for the women, for the men, you essentially have this whole overarching meta responsibility for society that is not being preached. Sacrifice. It is to give up your own desires, to ensure not only that you, if you're married, only that you, your wife, and your kids are going to heaven. If you're chaste and you're a priest, it's to make sure that the congregation and the flock and other people make it to heaven. If you are chaste and you're not married, it's to make sure that people of the church, and you volunteer for the church, whether it's a deacon or anything else, or it's people around you, make it to heaven. This is serious. This is serious. This isn't, oh, let's joke around about this. And the last thing I can say about this, sorry, I really needed that. He let me use truth as a weapon, not a mirror. I judged, and I still do this, which is even worse. I judge everyone else's sin while I was drowning in my own sin. Let me say that again. I judged everyone else's sin while drowning in my own sin. I was bold and broken, but not humble. I was bold, but not broken. I was bold and broken, but not humble. I was broken. I was pointing out everyone else's sin. I was making sure that everyone else can understand my judgment, whether it's through conversation or in person or anything else. But that was me. Essentially, this is bad. Essentially, I'd be on the elevator and just judging everybody. Everyone's not into personal development. I can't believe they're not into Tony Robbins. I can't believe they're not into Les Brown. I can't believe they're not into Oj Medino. I can't believe they're not into all these incredible people. All these incredible speakers that are into personal development and self-help, and I can't believe this person's out of shape. This guy should be in shape. This woman should be in shape. I don't know their stories. I don't know where they came from. I'm drowning in sin. I don't even know what sin is. I'm the one judging, while everyone else is probably doing the same thing, maybe doing the same, but who cares? I'm looking at everyone else's soul without actually pulling the plank out of my own eyes. Okay, it was a massive plank in my eyes, just ripping that plank out of my eye, that sin out of my own eye before judging someone else's. It was a log, but it was a little speck in someone else's eyes. That is such a good parable right there, is we're sitting in our own sin, drowning in our own sin, not humble at all, being bold in our judgment. And we are essentially, as I wrote here, we are loud. We are loud in our judgment, in conversations, behind someone's back, in our drama. It doesn't matter. It's all about us being righteous and everyone else is wrong. I am right, they're wrong. They're overweight, I'm in shape. I am humble, they are prideful. They're jealous and envious, and I am not. That is so rampant. That is everywhere. I just started listening from the beginning. I thought I was the only one with thoughts of not going to Mass while I'm getting ready to go. I've been a fan of yours for years, but I can't with the religious stuff. Sorry, wish you all the best. Thank you, Clay. Wish you all the best as well. Yes, today's Slam of the Sacred Heart. Solemnity. Sacred Heart. Correction, Solemnity. There you go. Thank you, Daniel Ward, for your second super chat. That is very kind of you, Daniel Ward. That is my second super chat of my life. And I understand why people go away from the religiousness. I built this channel. Let me go. Saint Mary of Egypt is your go-to saint of repentance. Listen or read her story. Her story is your story. Wow. All right. Well, thank you, Daniel. I have written that down in my brain, and I will heart that as well. That is very interesting how the Lord uses other people's stories like Saint Martin de Porres, which I looked up, and though I cannot fully relate to the story, it's amazing, his story, and how he was just so holy, so young, and just so devout, just doing whatever he could do to be in the order, this order that was the brotherhood, and he earned his way in through his piety. So I'll continue on with what I was about to say. I understand there's a lot of people that are now going to unsubscribe because this channel is not about personal development. This channel is not about book reviews. This channel is not right now, at least, about making money, getting better, better health, better at sleeping, eating correctly, all of this stuff that I built this channel on. 7,000 subscribers, built the channel on personal self-help, all that. Well, the level up, as I said in the red pill video that came out this week, is once you level up, you got to level out of that. The red pill takes you so far. You know, the red pill or the truth or personal development or self-help or, it takes you so far. It takes you to the wall that a lot of these guys hit, which is Tony Robbins hits that wall. You hit the wall and you got to go over the fence, go over the wall and be like, oh, there's this whole thing called Jesus Christ. Maybe the Bible is correct. Maybe the Vatican is set up as the one true holy Catholic and apostolic faith. Oh, let me go down that route. Let me go down that. Let me just try it. I've tried every other thing. When it comes to my health and my mindset and my sleeping and my, stretching and water and the right foods and the right carbs and the right, I've done everything else in personal development. I've read over 1,000 books. Let me just read about this one book that's the bestseller ever in human history called the Bible and do a little bit alternate research instead of the nonsense that's put out there. And then see if it actually is correct by getting on my knees and praying out to this Lord. I know there's a video not recently, probably in the last year. I haven't followed Tony Robbins in years. And he was my lowercase g God, by the way. And I said, or I saw a video and he goes, well, I'm a Christian. And some people like clapped and everything else. Dude, if you're a Christian, and it's going to sound very judgmental, you got to proclaim him. You got to proclaim him. Like, I know it's maybe every once in a while, but do you also say, listen, you got to repent. You got to go to confession. You got to take the Eucharist. You got to pray. It's so good in meditation, or it's so good in visualization, or it's so good in affirmations, or it's so good. I'm not saying don't set goals. I'm not saying don't put your goals in a visible place where you go like, okay, I remember what my goals are. But you're also not saying that it's my will, it's the will of the Father. And yes, knock, knock. and is given. Seek, 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 and it's given to you. But there's also, is it the right timing? Is this the right, does the Father want this for you? A little too much self in there, okay? And to this last point, which I'll say about my channel, you go to, and I said in the Red Pill video, you hit a wall with Jordan Peterson, or evolution, or evolutionary psychology, evolutionary biology, evolutionary anything, where I don't believe in any of that anymore, because it's impossible to go from a single cell to even a multi-cell, okay? It's impossible. It doesn't just happen, okay? And I won't go deep into the evolution talk, because the theory breaks down in Darwin's book. So I don't know. I do know why they took it to the nth degree, because they want the will of the dark side to be manifest instead of the light, okay? But on this channel if I'm not glorifying God, or if I am putting myself above God, or if I'm putting any other idol like manna, money, if I'm putting my body, my mind, if I'm putting anything above God, of course, yes, take care of everything. Don't go broke. Don't be out of shape. Take care of your health. Make sure you're eating right. Make sure you're sleeping right. Don't have alcohol, which I'm not anymore. I forgot how many days I'm sober. It's on my cell phone, which is now on TikTok Live. But the will of the Father supersedes everything, because this is a blip on the radar. This is not everything. And I had this on my Bible study today, is that people act like this is it. This is it. I was listening to a podcast, and this woman's like, I had a great realization. My father passed away suddenly in a car accident, which is awful. You're essentially, as she was saying, she was taking her kids to school, and then out of nowhere, she gets a call. By the way, Father's not here anymore. That's a life changer. That's a, wow, 55-year-old man, totally life taken short. And I don't know where he is. It has nothing to do about her father. But her logical conclusion was, and it is logical, and that's not sarcasm, because that's also how I was going through life, is that life is short. It can be taken at any time. The prescription is to do as much as you can here. My prescription is, you could be taken at any time. You better make sure that you are in a state of grace. That's my prescription. And is that popular? No. That's why I'm making YouTube videos. That's why I'm making TikTok videos. That's why I'm coming out as forceful and honest as possible, because you can be T-boned at an intersection. You could have a car jump the curb in New York City and hit me. I could have the elevator shaft just go all the way down and then I'm not here. I could have the train jump the tracks. I'm literally in New York City, okay? There's crazy people. There's accidents all the time. People die all the time. There's ambulances all over the place. There's death all around me, all around me. I don't see it like I'm in war, but there's ambulances and there's old people and there's accidents and work accidents and there's people, you know, taking their life. There's a lot of unfortunate situations going on, and it's nothing on this woman in her podcast, but there has to be a reeling. There has to be a removal, I should say, from this is the only portion of our soul. And that there is a much longer, forever time frame, and that's called eternity. And when you hear about the near-death experience, you want to make sure that you're avoiding one place, okay? There's some people that are like, oh, I want to be with heaven. Of course, I want to be with God in heaven in praise and worship. And people said that even the grass was praising and worshiping God, and the music was perfect and beautiful, and everything was incredible, and the sights and the sounds and the smells and the songs and everything else was absolutely... All right, Daniel, holy cow, you are a wild man right now. Daniel is just dropping dough. This is my third super chat. I have never gotten a super chat in 12 years, and I got 3 on one live. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. How would I get a hold of you? I know several popular YouTube channels. Would you be open to do an interview or two? Yeah, of course. Well, it depends what it is. Like, I I was talking with someone that I might be discerning marriage, and I was this is literally within the last 3 months, and I said, listen, I don't want to discern marriage. She's ready, I'm not, because I was still going through a bad phase of sin, mortal sin, and things like that. I'm like, I want to be fully beyond the mortal sin phase and be in such a state of grace that my soul is alive. I don't think about it. I go through spiritual attacks like I went through yesterday, during the day, midday, beautiful day, I'm about to go to church, and then boom, spiritual attack for 15 minutes. Awful. Not awful, I shouldn't say that, but it was bad. Like, it's a weird desire that overcomes you when you have no control over it and you don't know where it came from, but you do know where it comes from, and you have to put yourself in a state of grace and humbleness in front of the Lord immediately. So I had to do that, and it was public. It was at work, the public area at work. Nobody had any idea what was going on. And I told this woman who I was discerning marriage potentially with, I don't know if she's a subscriber, I don't know if she's going to view this or not, but I said, I know that the Lord has it on my future to be doing interviews, not for personal development, but for the Catholic faith, to specifically bring men into the faith, specifically men. Because there is such a lack of sacrifice. There is such a desire to fulfill lust within the men that it's disgusting. And to be honest, the way they dress, the way they act, the way they talk, this guy on the train dropped the F-bomb. I had to walk away from him. We're on the subway platform. He's in construction, thankfully for all these construction guys, but he was dropping F-bomb after F-bomb after. It was just, I can't be around that. I can't even listen to that. I was that guy. But the Lord has taken away alcohol, bad food. The Lord has taken away any secular music, any movies, any streaming, any news, any drama. I haven't cursed in, maybe once or twice accidentally. I haven't cursed in well over a year, like regularly. Now maybe twice. I can't read stuff that's drama. I can't even go on Instagram and enjoy it because it's just lust, or it's just stupid stuff that doesn't even matter. Like a TV show or a drama or, a reality show. That's why I feel bad for so many women. These women are just caught up in the nonsense. And I'll get to thank you, Daniel, again, for your super chat. But send me a DM on Instagram. That's the best way, in the link in the video below, or in this video. But there is a softness for the women that are going through it. I'll log on to Instagram or TikTok where I make videos, and there's two people, and I'll watch some of the videos, and these women are so into fashion and their outfits and makeup, and I didn't grow up with, the girls that I grew up with were never into makeup and fashion. They were just there. They just loved, they were just happy and joyful and everything else. And I just think, I would not want to be a woman growing up with social media and seeing all these women that are so into makeup and clothes and outfits of the day and making TikToks and popularity and engagement and DMs and attention. And it just, for a guy, it's a different thing. For guys, it's, acting on lustful stuff, seeing lustful stuff, women that are dressed not piously. There's sports and gambling and fantasy football and politics and just and news and just nonsense. It's two totally different pillars of Satan. And I don't know what it's like to be a woman. And I wouldn't want to be a woman dealing with all this stuff. But as a guy, I went through what it was for a guy to be totally of the world, totally of the pleasure, totally of the flesh. And now that I'm not removed of it, I'm still in New York City. And the woman that I was actually discerning marriage with, she's like, she doesn't live in New York City. She lives outside of the city, obviously. If you don't live in New York City, you live outside of the city. And she's like, you city folk. And I told her, I said, she wants me outside of the city, which eventually, God willing, I do have it on my consecration book to be married, and it's a Jubilee year as well. I do want to be outside of the city, live a very out in the middle of nowhere kind of lifestyle, but commute to the city. I can't leave the city. I have a calling to give back to the men of the city, to give back to the fallen of the city. I passed too many people all over there was one demonic encounter that I since going through, I went through in 2023 where that it was demonic attacks. You can sense when someone there's 3 levels as Father Rippinger talks about. He says that you are being oppressed. So we're all oppressed by the demons around us, okay? Even me saying this, I know there's demons around us. That they're saying whatever our triggers are to go into sin, as I talked about, and as the devil talks about, we're just idiots in his mind, just stupid, dumb idiots rolling around this earth that shouldn't even be here. That's essentially how the demons, or they say devils. The devils are skillful thieves looking to surprise us unawares. We're known as unawares. So there's a lot in this city, including the encounter that I had. I was walking to church probably about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. There is a guy that is a full-grown, in shape, pretty muscular guy. And the voice and the face is body language, and he was slamming on this door at like this somewhat not fast food, but it was like a pret-a-manger or whatever you call it, or like a au bon pain, one of those, Panera Bread styles. It's not a McDonald's, but it's not. And he literally, the front door, he's going like this, and his voice that came out, I'm getting chills. I'm like, that guy's possessed, right? That guy is possessed. And I have seen possessions, and I will talk about some other ones where there was one. I was walking down Christopher Street, and I don't know if I'm ready to tell this story. This was wild. And I was struggling heavily with alcohol at the time. Actually, I'll tell the story on next week's live. But essentially, this person, I don't know, and I'll tell you this story. I'll wait for the alcoholic story, because next week I'm going to go live about my alcoholism, the rosary, and confession, and how it all melds into one. That's going to be, I think, Wednesday, which is, I think, the 2nd, July 2nd. But this also happened as well. And it was early in the morning, probably about 2 years ago. I'm full into my alcoholism. I'm full into lust. I'm in relationships outside of marriage. You know what I mean? I'm also acting on pleasures. You know what I mean? I'm smoking. I'm doing everything. Okay, I'm deep into the sinful world, doing what the devil wants me to do and fulfilling his will by creating and with other people co-creating the destruction of society through my own will. His will through me to destroy, which is this whole life, and that's essentially what he has to do, because he can't create. He has to destroy us, our souls, our society, creation, everything. Destroy it all. Destroy it all. He's just sitting there happy. Yeah, destroy it all. And I'm on the subway, and I'm going to the gym. It's about 5:15 a.m. No one is on the platform. This is the Christopher Street station, which is a local train. So there's no one there. It's not really crowded at all until the workers really get there. And I swipe my Metro card. I make a left. I'm standing by the platform waiting. I'm tired. I'm going to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym. And I hear this grumbling. And there's no one on my platform, and there's no one on the opposite end of the platform. And there's no trains. It's silence. I'm getting chills thinking about it. It's silence. And I hear, and I'm like, and it's one of those things that you're trying to piece together the noise because you're like, okay, it's probably someone walking down the steps and they're dragging something. You're kind of piecing together these weird noises that are happening. And there's 2 sets of stairs to enter, probably about 25 feet to my right. And I'm like, they're dragging a suitcase, they're dragging I don't know, like maybe metal or something. And it's just like this weird. So I go, okay, that's strange. And I'm getting chills. I don't even hear the swipe of a Metro card. And if anyone lives in New York City, you visit New York City, there's a swipe, there's a sound that you make, and it goes, and it lets you in and it unlocks the gate so you can walk into the subway. I don't hear any of that. The sound stops. That weird, what the heck was that? Is someone coming down? Is someone dragging something? I turn to the right. There's now a man and a woman, homeless, or at least seems like it, that are sludging down with their head down. I didn't hear the gate open. I didn't hear a Metro card swipe. I'm getting chills. They were just standing there, 20 feet away to my right. No one is, I am getting major chills. No one is on the platforms. And they're just standing there. They're not looking at me. They're hunched over, really heavy. And I'm just looking forward. And in this moment, in self-defense, I was taught 10 years ago, at least put your hands by your side. In other words, you kind of hold them up, like in a ready to kind of motion. So I put my hands up. I'm just looking forward in everything else. And they're walking towards me. And what I noticed is that they're mumbling to themselves, but it's really quiet as they're coming towards me. But it was really, really loud, like about a minute ago. And as they're coming towards me, the woman, so now I not make eye contact, but I look to the right to make sure that there's no weapons, nothing. And I look to my right, my hands are up, and they're slunched over. They can't even look at me, and they're like dragging their feet slowly. And the woman literally looks, no eye contact. She goes like this and goes like that and makes the most evil face. I don't even think she moved her head. Her eyes and her face if there was an incarnate, not of this world, and not of Christ, not an angel, if you know what I mean. It was the eyes that I looked down about 2 feet, and she just stared through my head. And then as she walked, she was still looking at me, and then her eyes went forward, and then they continued down, and I go, wow. This was when I started looking up near-death experiences. Hell is real, heaven is real. I was like, what I just experienced that's not of this world. It's not of this world. And that just escalated all the people. I just had, this is my last rant, but I just had another experience where this woman is running up and down the train tracks. And this is why I told the woman that I was discerning marriage with, I'm like, I can't leave the city. I have a calling to help people in the city, to proselytize people in the city, to bring people to the Lord, to bring people to confession, to bring people back to the Eucharist, to remain in a state of grace, that movies isn't not it. Drama on Bravo TV and talking, behind someone's back, or for women, it's makeup and outfits. For men, it's money and pleasure and sleeping outside of marriage. It's not it. It's not it. It's not it. That's doing the will of the title of this video. That's doing the will of. So I enter and I'm going down to church, and it's a 6 p.m. young adults mass at St. Joe's. Highly recommend anyone in New York City go down to that. It's great, very good. He brought me into the church, actually, the pastor, not the head pastor, but one of the pastors there. Unbelievable guy. And there's this woman running up and down, and she is, listen, she's possessed. She's possessed. It's not her voice. It is not her mannerisms. And the way she's walking, the way she is, and the train platform is 2 blocks long, and she did probably 2 to 3. It was not her who's in control of her body right now. And all I did, now I'm a believer, because this was about a week and a half ago, and I just said, Lord Jesus Christ, and I'm starting to say and by the way, the devil took the word ejaculatory, which actually means an ejaculatory prayer, which is, Lord Jesus Christ, help this woman. It's just a quick prayer. Of course, demonized. Took that word, made it not good. Of course, that's what the devil does. And I'm just doing ejaculatory prayers, Lord help her, Lord help her, Lord help her, angels, St. Michael the Archangel. And I'm just saying this mental prayer in my head, please send somebody, send somebody. So anyway, train comes, and she's on the opposite end of the platform. It's the same platform, but on the other side. I get on the train and don't think anything of it. Train starts taking off. I'm going from 34th to West 4th, which is 30 blocks. It's about a healthy 2 to 3 minute ride. And out of nowhere, the doors to the car that I'm in open. And guess who walks in? I'm getting chills, this woman. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. What the heck? So now I know it's of the demonic right now. She literally walks, I'm in the middle. She walks from there, stands, it's packed. It's 5 something on a beautiful Sunday. She walks directly in front of me. Directly in front of me. I have my headphones in because I put them in after I got on the train. I was probably listening, nice Catholic. I took them off and I just started to pray. And she starts freaking out. She yelled at this woman who was sitting down, and she was like, how do you not know it was your... And she's yelling, and I feel bad for the girl, because the girl, she's secular. She's clearly secular. She doesn't, she looks like she's about to cry. And you can't, as a New Yorker, you can't get involved in a circumstance because things could go awry with this woman really quick. And I just, for the whole 2 to 3 minutes while we're going down to West 4th Street, all I was saying was prayers after prayers after prayers. And she's bugging out and freaking out. And sure enough, I just said, Lord, please take care of that. I exit the train. This is still the same, still going to church. I exit the train. There is never anyone outside of West 4th, especially as a woman, to be asking for anything. I exit West 4th. There's a woman who stares directly at me and says, please pray for me. Yes, I will. I will pray for you. I was so startled by all the stuff that was going on. If that was the first instance, I didn't go through this whole situation before, I would have been like, what's your name? What do you need? I'm late for church, but I will definitely pray for you. And all I did, I offered up my rosary. I offered up prayers for those 2 women. And I have a calling to be in the city. And that's the thing, is that I know that there's a lot of people that talk about the city. You can't let the city just go to ruins. You think the Lord wants all Catholics to just vacate the city and then just completely have it taken over more than it is right now? So I highly recommend anyone that's in a major city, especially Miami, especially Vegas, LA, San Francisco, places like Chicago probably need more help than, Vegas, New York, Miami, Boston, probably need help, but they're not sinful like New York City is. There you can get whatever drug you want. Everything is completely legal. I was in I was in the scene, but I wasn't like getting paid to be in the nightclub scene. But I've been to the after parties. I know what goes on. It's 1 a.m. There's an after party at 3 a.m. There's an after party at 5 a.m. We're gonna go to this. Everything's underground. You got to know it's not a place. It is very wicked. There's a lot of debauchery going on. I talked to a bunch of people that told me some crazy, crazy, crazy stories. You wouldn't even know what goes on. And just though they're married, they may not even be really married, and it's a lot. It's a lot, unfortunately. So I'm going to end the live now. I'm going to be going live on Wednesday. I'm going to be talking about my alcoholic story more. I feel comfortable enough. I thought it would be a little bit later on that I'd be talking about my story, but it's enough now that I want to bring people out of it. Unfortunately, there's an increasing larger and larger amount of women becoming alcoholics, which I did not foresee coming. The number is exponentially growing, and for women, it's wine and maybe mixed drinks or whatever. For men, it's liquor and beer, so it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. But to hear the amount of women that go home, I was listening to a story here at one of our happy hours. It's not happy, it's just drunk. And this woman was talking about, oh, I just go home and I usually just have a half a bottle. And this other girl's like, oh, sometimes on Fridays I have a full bottle. I'm like, that was me. I didn't say this because I didn't know the women. I was just overhearing it and I was like, that was me. Except I was doing it Monday through blah, blah, blah. And it started just on Fridays. It started just on Saturdays. Then it went to Sunday. And then it went, well, you know what? I'll skip Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then it went to Thursday. So now it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I was like, oh, let's do it. And then it was just every day of the week. And right now, there's so many people that need to let off steam. There's so many people that are into these things like Sagittarius and astrology and the universe and crystals and all this paganism that we as Catholics need to rip them out of it. And sometimes, yes, it is unpleasant and sometimes it's uncomfortable, but that is love. That is true love. Love is the truth. It is not the lie. It is not to go around the truth. It is not to say it's okay, everything is okay, which is the last thing I have right here. Well, which was, I'm not hurting anyone. It was two ones before that. I'm not hurting anyone. Not a big deal. As long as I'm not hurting anyone. No, you are. You're hurting your soul. That was actually on one of my videos. It might have been my red pill video. I don't know. One of my past videos, which was, because I wasn't hurting anyone, it's not a big deal to other people what I do. But the problem is I am hurting someone and I'm hurting myself. I forgot to include myself. I'm not even including myself in who is being hurt. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's just myself. No, that does matter because that's another win for the dark side. Okay? That's another soul going not into purgatory to be cleansed to go to heaven or directly to heaven. That's someone that's going into the lake of fire. So, David Ward, thank you very much for all the super chats, $5, everything else. Thank you everyone for subscribing. I know there's been about 1,500 new people, which is wild to think about. I'm going to be going more lives Fridays because it's a better time to have a full stream of consciousness, consciousness, instead of just a one-off video that's 15, 20 minutes long. It's highly edited. It's quick, it's fast, it's, you download it, you put on your podcast. This is more of like a long run, long bike, long something, whatever exercise you're doing. But to anyone that's in the personal development realm that's watching these videos, I know 7,000 people subscribed over the course of 12 years because of personal development. Am I going to go back? I have no idea. Am I going to continue down the Catholic path? That is for sure. Am I going to be calling out sin? That is for sure. I can't lie anymore. I've searched my whole life to find out what is the truth. What is the actual truth in this world? And school lies to you because that is totally taken over by Satan, which was actually created by the Catholic Church to educate people, by the way, okay? Education, especially university, was Catholic. Hospitals, Catholic. Charity, Catholic. Giving of the alms and poor, Catholic. Everything was Catholic. There's a great book that I want to read called The West Was Built by Catholics, or the Western World Was Built by Catholics, or Catholicism. I don't know. But it's been sitting in my Amazon cart forever, but I have so many other books that I'm reading right now. But essentially, going back to what I was about to say is that when I started to understand that I was being lied to in school, obviously a bunch of these red pill guys would be like, oh, you're being lied to at school. When I was being lied to when I was 22, I decided to go into red pill, started to go into personal development, self-development, and then I landed during COVID, everything stripped away. Money, health, just abusing alcohol. My soul was crushed. My desires for the flesh were at extreme levels. extreme levels, just every pleasure that I could make me numb my despair. That's the best way to say it. I went full in on it, trying to understand what the truth was. The world is run by lizards. There's UFOs came down and made it with people, the fallen angels, the giants, and all this other stuff. I got into crazy conspiracies. And then I started going through the not ideal attacks by the enemy. And I was like, well, if that's real, then obviously the Christian belief. And then once you start going down the truth, which is the Catholic faith and what they actually believe, you understand that all of this was already established by Aquinas. Like, by the time Aquinas is done, the faith is pretty much amazing and perfect. Of course, there's some refinements that go along, but I'm assuming the Mass was already complete. The liturgy, the prayers, the sacrifice, the offerings, the feast days, the calendar, just marriage, courting, relationships, what you did, which was you're either chaste married or chaste as a priest. Okay, you're married, now you can betroth the wife or have intimate relationships with your wife. It was perfect. And then the Enlightenment came. The Enlightenment, which is not the Enlightenment, that is the devil's playground, started to take root and twist everything to his will. And now we don't even know. Now we're just subverted under his subjectivism and his will and how we're carrying out his will. So what time are you going live on Wednesday? We are going live on Wednesday, midday. That's going to be a good one, by the way. That's going to be a very good one because I'm going to go deep. I'm going to really prepare for that one. This one is kind of a lead up on how I was carrying out the will during my sinful ways, becoming a Christ believer through, obviously, yes, the demonic, but also crazy conspiracies that I was believing. And I was into all of it. Alex Jones, Gaia.com, read all of it, that the Bible isn't real. I was into Billy Carson. I was into everything that revolved away from Christ. All of it was away from Christ. And what I'm going to be talking about on Wednesday, I'll probably go live probably around the same time. I go to the 12:15 Mass, so I'll probably around 1:15. But that is going to be an in-depth story about my journey of alcoholism, my journey of finding Christ, and then going through, I just read it, on how many demons come into your life after you start repenting and believing in Jesus Christ. And there might be some attacks tonight because I'm talking about the truth. However, this gospel reading, it might be Luke. Yes, here it is. Luke 11:21. So this is on day 15 of the 33-day consecration. You have to end it on a Marian feast day. So mine is Mount Carmel, July 16th. So you then reverse engineer 33 days from there. So this was Luke 11:21. I know Catholics were all about the Bible. So it talks about, well, there we go. My live on TikTok just ended. And we are maybe back live again, whatever, it's not going. But essentially, when the unclean spirit, so this is what happens. When a strong armed man keeps his court, those things are in peace which he possesses. So in other words, you're a man or a woman that is chaste, not thinking of lust, not looking at lust, not getting drunk, being in prayer, being in fasting, being in repentance, being in the confessional, taking the Eucharist, being in a state of grace. In other words, you are fully armed. But if a man stronger than he comes upon and overcomes him, all of his armor, which he trusted, will distribute his spoils. In other words, distribute means essentially to displace his armor. So now, all of his armor, all of his piety, all of his chasteness scatters. When the unclean spirit has gone out of the man, he walks with the unclean spirit, looks for water, it seeks rest, and not finding any, he says, I will return into the house where I came. This needs to be on the pulpit. I'm going to continue. So essentially, you have a guy like myself yesterday I'm in a state of grace. There's a ton of venial sins that I need to go to confession. It's starting to build up over the last 2 months. And yes, I know I should go every month. So, Lord, forgive me. It might have been actually about 6 weeks because I wanted to confess for drinking alcohol. Even though I was not getting drunk, I said, I'm not going to drink alcohol. Then I drank alcohol and I'm like, all right, no. We don't need to. I didn't get drunk, but I just don't need that. So I was armed. I was a strong man. I was in peace. Then my armor scatters. So in other words, the unclean spirit goes somewhere. The unclean spirit could be lust, pleasure. It could be jealousy, sloth, pride, envy, whatever. Just give me more food, give me more pleasure, give me more social media, give me more distractions, give me social media, give me an Instagram feed, give me something bad to talk about, these politics, whatever the case is. You understand. When the unclean spirit has gone out of the man, it's left me, it's gone. It's gone. Then yesterday happens where I am getting crushed by, I knew it was a spiritual attack. I knew it. During the day, walking around New York City, returning stuff to Whole Foods, it doesn't just happen, okay? So when the unclean spirit has gone out of the man, he walks through places. This is the unclean spirit. The unclean spirit walks through places without water, seeking rest and not finding anything. The unclean spirits, I will return into the house where I came. And when I come, he finds it swept and garnished. So the unclean spirit goes. And then he returns, and I'm getting chills. It's kept clean. It's swept, it's ungarnished. Then he goes and takes with him 7 other spirits more wicked than himself. They enter and they dwell there, and the lasting state of that man becomes worse than the first. Oh, that, my friends, is the spiritual battle in which we find ourselves. You are now in a state of grace. You now leave the confessional. You now say, I am never going to drink again. I'm never going to eat terribly. I'm never going to talk bad behind someone's back. I'm never going to watch illicit material. I'm never going to act on that illicit material. I'm never going to take any hallucinogens. I'm never going to smoke pot. I'm never going to drink again. I'm never going to be whatever the vice is right now. Insert your vice. The demon leaves. Confession happens. And there were so many times in confession, dozens of times in confession where I'm like, I think I might drink tonight. That's not a good confession. I don't even think that's a valid confession, where I thought I might drink tonight. In the confessional, as I'm confessing alcoholism. That's not a valid confession. And then finally, but one of the priests, because they have a rotation of 4 priests, one of the priests said, not finally, take that away. One of the priests said, by the way, to make a valid confession, you have to come in, and I might be getting some of this wrong, but you have to come in, all of your sins, be fully sorry for, you have to fully repent all of it, and you have to make sure you do your penance and sin no more. Well, as you're saying that, I might be drinking tonight. Well, alcohol isn't bad. It's if you drink too much. This was our conversation. And I said, in my mind, I'm like, I might drink too much. So essentially, the unclean spirits might have gone away while I'm in church. I take the Eucharist. Maybe it was a valid or invalid. I don't know. I have repented or I have gone to confession for taking the Eucharist under mortal sin. So that was in confession. Maybe I shouldn't be saying my confessions, but whatever. And unclean spirit went away, seeking a place to reside. Couldn't find a place. Right back into me. Boom, 7 more wicked. That's what we're under. That's the spiritual realm. That's us doing the will of the demonic. So I'm going to end it right there. If there are any questions that you guys have, any topics that you want me to cover, definitely leave in the comments below. I appreciate Daniel for the super chats. I'm going to be coming in next week with my full story. I'm really going to put that together because I want a lot of people to be able to come forth with their sins to a priest and really I walked in, I heard from a priest, before I go, we got 18 people watching. Before I leave, this is how I did my confessions, even though they were maybe not valid confessions because I was leaving and sinning, but I was leaving. And the number one thing was that I was saying the number of times that I did something. So, Father, it has been X amount of days. I'm a sinner, or, obviously I'm not going to say the first part because we're not in a confession, but I would say how to enter. And then I would say the number. I have acted on illicit materials this many times. I have seen this many times. I've lusted after this. I've coveted my neighbor's good this many times. I have drank to a alcoholic level 6 times from my last confession, blah, blah, blah. And that is better than going in and saying I'm lustful. Or I may have, looked at illicit material. No, I would say the P word, obviously it's P-O-R-N, blah, blah, blah. I looked at that and I coveted my neighbor's goods 10 times. And to be honest, the way I look at it is if you're looking at your neighbor's goods, whether it's a house, whether it's where their kids go to school, whether it's their car, whether it is how nice their lawn is, whether it's the way they talk, the way they dress, how in shape they are. This is also under my conspiracy files, is there was no real comparison on stuff forever. Because there was no debt. And by the way, the Catholic Church is fully against usury, fully against loans against education, which is a wild concept, loans against your house, which was a wild concept, loans to buy something, which is a wild concept. If you really took today and you put it to someone in, say, 1830, they would look around and be like, wonder why everyone's demonic and you're doing the will of the devil. Because housing should be given to people. And by the way, well, I won't go down the whole route anyway. But going back to what I was about to say, essentially when you have a whole host of, I actually forgot what I was going to say on the sins, but there was no jealousy of property because nobody really had anything. There was no stuff. There was no accumulating. My mom told us a story from her grandfather where her grandfather was just like, yeah, okay, yeah, but we have a car. My mom's like, yeah, but they have a nicer car. And he goes, yeah, but we have a car. There is a nicer. It's just they have a house. They have transportation. They have food. Well, the food's nicer. That's as ridiculous as what it sounded, okay? Yeah, but we have that. We don't need the new iPhone. This is all a new concept. Yeah, but they have a new camera. They have more followers. This is all a new concept sold to us. There's a great documentary called The Century of Self. The Century of Self. And essentially, in the Century of Self, they talk about they needed to sell, after World War II, cigarettes to women. The whole documentary is about how to sell stuff to people based on advertising, marketing. Bacon was never in breakfast. Breakfast wasn't even a thing. Cereal. They needed toothpaste to be sold 2 times a day, so they included an ingredient that made bubbles bubble, and then they put it into soap, so it made bubbles bubble. It's an actual chemical to make it, or something, that they made it bubble, so it felt like you're actually there. You don't even want me to go down the whole of materialism and accumulation and all that, but they wanted to make it cool for women to smoke, so they had, I think it was the St. Patrick's Day parade, they had these women pull out from their stockings a cigarette, and the first 5 women, 10 women, whatever, lit up in this parade in front of the men, and then it was cool. And then they were hooked, because cigarette companies wanted 50% of the men who stopped smoking because they came back into America after World War II to continue. And then they said, actually, let's go after the other 50%. Let's go after women. And then they said, oh, not only do we have to sell men, we can sell women just what we sell to them. It's all a perversion. It's all a perversion. So when you look at revolutions, no revolution, in my opinion, was good. like that I know of. The sexual revolution was the worst thing that's happened to us ever. French Revolution was terrible. The Russian Revolution was terrible. All the revolutions, they try and make it out like it was good. When you go into the French Revolution, you understand that it was completely co-opted by the Masons. It was completely co-opted by the communists. That Russia was completely co-opted by the communists. And guess what they were against? The Catholic Church. And guess what the Russians were against? The Orthodox Church. So Germany, same thing. All those monarchs, all the papal states, they were slowly all just usurped and then flipped. And now they look at us in America as like the beacon of freedom. The beacon of freedom to what? Buy stuff? But how about your soul? What are we consuming? Illicit materials, OF. What are we consuming? Bad food. What are we consuming? More money? A nicer car? Yeah, but are you going to heaven or hell? That is the lie. So you had the century of self. Now it's the century of safety. This is the century of safety. So the century of self, individualism, be different. That's all Apple. Oh, you like Microsoft? Get an Apple computer. So, I have a lot of thoughts, and it all comes out, of course, on lives and not through the video, because I can fully flesh out all of my ideas instead of a 16, 20-minute video, whatever. But if you guys have any comments, leave it below. Contact me. There's a form below if there's any topics you want me to talk about. I'm going to go full in on this Catholic stuff. So who's ever subscribed pre-Catholic stuff, I'm sorry, but I can't go back. It's impossible for me to go back, because once you see all the stuff that I saw through history, actual history, not what we're told history, then you start to really, really believe that the world we're living in is doing the will not of Christ at all. So I know there's about 14. Ari, appreciate your comment. And everyone else that's watching, I'm going to pop out, of course. As always, if there's any other questions. And of course, recent videos are great. My guy, appreciate you making them. Man, Daniel Ward, I was about to go. Daniel Ward comes in with another $5 super chat. And Protestantism, I am deep into what happened from about 1520 to about the 1900 in the French Revolution. The French Revolution was revolution. The French overtaking, the Satanist overtaking, and I'm getting chills, is crazy, is nothing like what they talk about. There was no enlightenment. What the French did to the Catholic faith and the Catholic nuns and churches and property is exactly what happened in England when they banned, King Henry VIII banned for, I think, 253 years Catholicism. They seized all the church properties. They seized all the churches. They pillaged the seminaries, the monasteries. I can't use all the words, but they just ransacked at a degree that is completely disgusting. Thank you, Ari, for let's celebrate their first super on a live stream. Thank you, Ari. Let's celebrate that. And I'm going into Daniel Ward. Thank you, original content, 210, original ideas. Recent ideas are great. My guy, appreciate making them, even though I just said that. When you start reading the Vatican's approved book lists, I will go into some of them in the future. When you start reading about the Vatican approved book lists of relativism, of liberalism, and this has nothing to do with politics. This was a whole new concept where you don't need, and it has everything to do with Protestantism. And by the way, I looked back through our records. My father was Lutheran, okay? And he attended Catholic Mass with my mom. He never took the Eucharist, but he attended every single Catholic Mass with my mom. And essentially, we went back to his records. We actually, my last name, goes back to Bavaria, Germany. my ancestors worked with Martin Luther. So I think they were former Catholics who then became Lutheran. And essentially, I looked at their quotes in the book of fasting, which I don't have with me. They hated what the Catholic Church did so much. They stripped everything out of the Catholic Church, the fasting, the abstinence, the feast days, and they called it. Do you know why Protestants are like, it's all about faith and not about works? It's all about faith, it's not about works. That goes back to Knox, Zwingli, Calvin, all of those Luther heretics, heretical beliefs. Those, I don't want to go too much deeper, but they called fasting on, I forgot what day it was, fasting from a certain thing, fasting from meat, that's what it was. I think it was fasting from meat. That is of works, and you don't need works to get into heaven. That's a direct quote from, I think, oh my gosh, was it Wesley? I don't know. But Protestantism is the worst thing that has happened, and no one is talking about it. I talked about it a little bit on TikTok because the people are fine. They're nice. They're very anti-Catholic, number one. Number two is what Protestantism did, which is relativism, changed humanity the worst way that anyone at any time in history could have done, was bring Protestant. There is no central belief. There is no central doctrine. If you do anything, it's works-based. You don't have to worry about fasting. You don't have to worry about prayer. We're going to rip books out of the Bible. You don't pray to saints. The real presence is a symbol. Don't go to confession. Like, there is no purgatory. Like, there is no faith left in Protestantism today at all. Like, Luther was bad, Calvin, Zwingli, Wesley, King Henry, all of them, all the early reformers, I love the names. Medieval, no, it's not medieval. That was actually probably the best flourishing ever in history. So whenever you hear these terms, revolution, French Revolution, ejaculatory prayer, and then, they take everything good and they supersede it. But what the French did, I was reading a book. Read the old books. Don't read today's book. I was in a bookstore and I'm like, what's your oldest book? And I was reading a book from the 1850s about Ireland. They were crushed. I'm Irish. They were crushed by the British. They were decimated by the British. The British hated them. They hated all Catholics. That's why when the Irish came here, they hated the Irish. It's not because they were Irish. And they hated the Italians. It wasn't because they were Italian, it's because they were Catholic. Hence the word WASP, White American Anglo-Saxon, Protestant. Okay, where did that word go? Why was my grandfather denied Irish need not apply? It was literally signs in people, because they were so anti-Catholic. I am part of a church in downtown Manhattan, St. Joe's, and I'm also part of another one in Midtown. And that's the oldest church. That's not the oldest Catholic church ever built, but that's the oldest one that's surviving because the English burned all the other ones in New York City. That's the oldest one. Finally, when the British got their Protestant behinds out of here, we were able to build a church. And my mom's like, that looks like a Protestant church. I'm like, I know. We had to build it like a Protestant Lutheran church with nothing ornate because then they wouldn't burn it down. When you look at true history, through the eyes of, and I'll go there now that there's 14 people watching. When you look at the cities in America, in Canada, they're all Catholic. San Francisco, look at all the Sans. Look at all the Sainta. Los Angeles, look at all the saints. St. Louis, St. Augustine. Look at all the San Francisco, Santa Monica. All of them, Santa Barbara, they were all Catholic. When you think of the French and Mexico, and the French had Canada, one of my colleagues just came from a town, and he's like, oh, it's called Saint da-da-da. people just pass over this. Every single town was built by, all of the United States was built by Catholics right after going into the Civil War. Like it's not talked about history. Who were the North? Mainly Catholics. After Maryland was the only state allowed, which is separation of church and state, by the way. It wasn't atheist and believers. It was, oh, you're a Puritan. Okay, you're an Episcopalian. Oh, you're a Anglican. Okay, you're a Lutheran. They each had their own state religion. So they're saying, okay, you're Lutheran, but I'm not Lutheran. I can be a Quaker and actually be okay with. That was separation of church and state, not believers, unbelievers, okay? Especially Catholics. We weren't allowed anywhere. Then finally we had to get Maryland. I could go on and on. But if you look at the North, Boston was very Catholic. This is in the right after the War of 1812, probably around 1830. America just started booming with Catholicism. Booming. And then the Protestants were just wiping us out left and right, just killing off Mexico and everything that was owned there. And then the French in Canada, just killing off the French, which was Catholic. You know, Catholic was also in large parts of, in Africa. Just when you look at the lens of history through Catholic and Protestant, everything makes sense. Everything makes sense. When you don't look through it, oh, this was Spain, this was France, this was Mexico, this was owned by, no. When you look at everything through the lens that from 1830 to 1900 in America, the churches and the state buildings and the libraries and the public lands and the public parks, and it looks very Roman. It looks very Roman Catholic. We won't go there fully, but Rome never died. It just became Catholic. And we built, we won't go into it fully, all right? We don't want anything flagged. We already got Daniel Ward with his beautiful gifts going to go to the Mass, some of it, and to Ari, thank you very much. But do alternate history through the lens of Protestant versus Catholic. Catholics were never on the offensive. Look at, say, the North. Who is in the North versus the South? Who's in the South? Protestants. Who's in the North? Catholics. I think there might have, we won't go too much down the Civil War, but look up Saint Catherine or Saint Anne Drexel. Look up Drexel, okay? Catherine Drexel. She went to the Vatican, and on the third time, she said her father, who we've never heard of course not. We've heard of the school. We've never heard of her because they're Catholic. Catholics have been erased from history. That's really what it comes down to. I won't go, I'll fill it in on future live streams. Once I start going down conspiracy files. Conspiracy is the only one in the quotes because this is actual files of history. But her father was one of the wealthiest men in America. And she had this desire, because she was wealthy, to give her money back to Black and Indian people, or Native American Black people, because she saw how terribly they were being treated in the 1800s. She went to the Vatican, the Pope denied her. The Pope denied her for a second time, finally on the third time. Look up her story. Her story is unbelievable. Unbelievable. What she did is breathtaking. The 1800s were, in America, was the best time Catholicism in America. For Europe, it was probably it was definitely before the Reformation, because they started going crazy with wars and burning us down. So before the Reformation, that's why so many Catholics came here, because they were just getting persecuted all over the place. And they came here, and my grandfather still was not able to get jobs. So anyway, Natchez, Mississippi has an amazing Catholic cathedral. Louisiana, much of Mississippi is Catholic. Listen, Catholicism built the West. Okay, I'm just going to go out there before, oh my gosh, now there's 19 people. I haven't eaten since 9 a.m., all right? I've only had the Eucharist. I shouldn't say I only had the Eucharist. Eucharist will make me not eat. And getting $5 3 times from Daniel Ward. Thank you, Daniel. I'll heart that as well. When you look around at why do all the state capitals look the same? Why do the libraries look beautiful? Why do the public buildings, I'm talking about the ones from World War I and before. That's the best, because it started to change around. That's when the Catholics started getting crushed. Because when you look up what developed, I'm here in New York City, there's a place called the Harrier Building. Go look it up on Google. H-A-I-E-R or H-A-I, Harrier Building. It's on 37th and Broadway. And you look at this building, it's right out of Rome. It's right out of Greece. And I'll get to your question, Meta Ape, which is an interesting name. So Catholic is good, right? Yeah, listen, I went down that route. I watched a 13-part series during COVID that essentially said the Jesuits are the worst thing that's ever happened. Then you talk the Marinenges or whatever, and then you have the Black Pope, you have the White Pope, you have the Red Pope, you have the real Pope. They talk about all of that. You know, the Vatican is where they have the Antichrist, the banking is in Europe, and in the United States, it's the military. So all those conspiracies, I went down all that. My buddy was sending me all this stuff. I was coming into the faith, and he was calling me, and he's like, dude, the Vatican is the worst. He's the anti, da-da-da, and he's just going down all this. He's a Protestant. He's barely really a believer, now that I think about it. But during COVID, you know, you have these weird conversations with a bunch of weird people. No, he's not a weird guy. He's a good guy. But you have some interesting conversations when you're like, what are you talking about? Everyone's a reptile. And he was sending me, it was probably 15 to 20 hours. And I watched the whole part series, and they were going down the Vatican and how this Pope and he did this and everything else. I believed all of it. I believed all of it. And I was at my random house over in upstate New York 2 summers ago, and I'm starting to understand the conspiracy. Like, those are the actual conspiracies. Those aren't even true. But this guy comes in, he goes, yeah, I was born Catholic, but by the way, this was actually last summer because I was starting to come into the faith. And he goes, yeah, by the way, it's not real. There's the white Pope who does everything, and then you have the black Pope who, and it's not color of skin, it's just, I guess, their robe or their title. And then you have the actual Pope. And the way he said it so confidently, and at the time I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, yeah, you know, I probably believe blah, blah, blah. But then I started going down actual history by the Vatican Church and then comparing it to what we were taught. Say the French Revolution was the best thing that's ever happened. Then you look at France and you go, was it? And then you say, okay, what about the Russian Revolution where 80, 90 million people died? And then you start learning about who was actually in government and trying to usurp and what actually happened and who's actually killed. And you go, was it really a revolution? And then you started learning about how wars were started. World War I, how it started. Who was trying, you know, is what, Franz Ferdinand or whatever it is, assassination or was assassinated. I was just learning about that literally last week on the treadmill. I was like, nothing we learned was accurate. Truly the reason. Everything was a Trojan horse. So to your question, what do you think about the Catholic Church is the real church, but has been infiltrated by Satan? Whether it's infiltrated or not, it's not going to fall. Christ already said that. Nothing, the gates will not prevail. Even if it's been infiltrated, are there parts? Yes. There is a book that I was going to buy from a woman in 1960, or right after 1960, 61, 62. She was a nurse. This guy comes in after being into an accident. She's searching for his ID. He's in the emergency room. And she's searching for his ID to call somebody or to at least inform the family, by the way, there's no ID, nothing. And then the doctor leaves and there's a briefcase, and she starts going through the briefcase to see if there's an ID. She sees no ID. This guy's got no ID. He's got nothing. And he's in an accident. They've no one to talk to. And then she starts reading through the files. This is a book. I'm actually probably going to read it. And in the files, it talks about that there was 1,100 priests in the seminary. that are communist in the 1960s, and that this guy was essentially bullet pointing how they were going to infiltrate the Catholic Church. The thing is that Satan will never be able to take over Christ's church. Never be able to take over. It could just be the Pope and you and I. It doesn't matter. It could just be one or two believers left. The Catholic Church cannot be taken over. The gates will not prevail. That's a promise. There's two other things, even though I just did four. There's two other things that I do want to bring up. Number one is, regardless of, obviously before this Pope Francis or Pope Leo XIV or your local bishop or your local priest, or they say something that's blasphemous, obviously there is clarification on all religions lead to God. Obviously people did not like that when Pope Francis said that. This is the number one thing to say about it, is that your soul is more important than anything else. So you have to go to confession, you have to remain in a state of grace, and you have to take the Eucharist. The Eucharist is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord. Even if the Pope is not a good Pope or whatever, the Catholic Church is going nowhere. By the way, do you understand how many bad popes we've had? Do you understand at one time we had 3 popes? We had 3 popes at one time, okay? So, talk about a little bit of confusion for Catholics, okay? There were not good popes, okay? This whole notion of like, we're living in the worst times, we're living in the we're not. There were way worse times than right now. Imagine there are 3 popes right now saying, I'm the Pope. No, I'm the Pope. No, I'm the Pope. Look it up. It happened, okay? Right now is nothing. Okay, we just need faith, prayer, fasting, abstinence, teach the truth, be truthful, proclaim the gospel. Don't have noodleheads like me in New York City being the only one that goes live for 2.5 hours and talks about it. I'll get to REM. That's amazing. I just see ex-Muslim, so I'll get that in a second. CF, thank you for, I don't know what CF is. Sorry, I'm not the biggest world traveler. But going back to that, is that you have to worry about your soul first of all. Now you're in a state of grace. Now you have to bring your friends and family members, so they're in a state of grace. We're not worried about the Pope. We're not worried about the bishop, the archbishop, the cardinals, or anyone else. We're praying for them. I pray every single day for the Vatican, for Pope Leo, the cardinals, the bishops, the archbishops, the priests, the seminarians. I pray for them all. The deacons. I pray for them every single day after Mass. I go to St. Martin de Porres. He's got his beautiful statue right there. I literally just did it today, 3 hours ago. I take the Eucharist, church is over, I'm always in the front row, prostrate, or genuflect I should say, do the sign of the cross, go to the right. They do prayers that continue for another 15 minutes. I have to get back to work, but as long as I am there, I've already done the rosary and already did my consecration, so it's not like I'm skipping out because the Mass has ended and then they want to do extra prayers. I pray every single day for the Vatican and everything else. But you know what I also do? I pray for the conversion of those that have fallen away from the Catholic faith, those that are Protestant, those that are anti-Catholic, those that are not praying, those that are in despair, those that are homeless, those that are going through health or money or depression or any of these things that are being cured by Big Pharma. You know what I went online to look up? Someone was like, oh, I have this blotch thing on my skin. So I looked it up. I'm like, that's probably either too much salt, too much sugar, not enough exercise, not enough, say, omega-1, 2, or 3, or whatever the heck it is, omega something, in other words, fish oil or olive oil or whatever. You know what they told me? Use lotion. You're not using enough lotion. That's the top results on Google. That is paid and bought by Big Pharma right there, okay? That's like saying, oh, okay, that's the whole red pill train, which is, okay, I believe in, that men and women are different. Okay, what do women look for? They look for tall guys that are that have money, that are in shape. What do guys look for? More feminine girls that are in shape, that are pretty. Okay, let's go to self-development. Okay, I got my money right, I got my body right, I got my mindset, let's get my housing. This is the whole treadmill. Then you get to, okay, I wonder if it's deeper than this. Let's go biblical, but not like too biblical. Let's go Jordan Peterson style, where it's like theology, but not like totally theology. You hit a wall. You hit a wall. You have to go beyond that wall to then put everything, all of your faith. And the Lord does not say to be in despair. The Lord does not say, the Lord says, work out your salvation through fear and trembling. I'm for the conversions of souls. Charles, I'm an ex-Muslim. I searched all my life for the truth and went to the same route, conspiracy theories, and I found out too the Catholic Church is the absolute truth. Swiss francs. Oh, I love it. What if Orthodox is better or the real church? I just want people in the apostolic churches. If you want to go Eastern Orthodox, fantastic. I don't believe in any of that anymore when I was lied to during my conspiracy journey. I spent 5 years every day while drinking, 12 hours a day, spending money on these websites. Oh, okay, Billy Carson, ultimate conspiracy theorist, went onto his website, paid for his money, watched all of his content at 2x. Okay, it's chakras. Okay, we're connected to the divine. Okay, we are God. Okay, nothing is real. Triple or double slit experiment, Schrodinger's experiment, wave function collapsing. I went down all the conspiracies, every single one. Physics, going down all the way to the quantum level. Everything's quantum level, quantum particles. All right, then I went to Gaia.com. Gaia.com is the ultimate conspiracy theorist that aliens are fallen angels, but aliens actually conducted all these things, and then angels are fallen angels are among us, but then there are also the giants, and then the giants are fallen. And dude, I went down all that. They're the same ones putting out documentaries that the Vatican is not the true church. They are that anti-Catholic. Why would I go and pervert the truth? Because the truth is setting your soul to a higher standard than just faith, than just believing. That's Protestantism. That's relativism. Your truth, my truth, their truth, no truth. There is no document that spells everything out like the theology of the body, which I just bought a book on. That's relativism. That's Protestantism. That's the worst sin. That is the worst sin. Is just looking at how the collapse happened in fasting and abstinence based on the book that I read that's coming out next week on this YouTube channel. I already filmed it. But literally looking at 1500 to the year 2000 was the destruction. I should say 1500 to 1900 was the destruction of anything holy. The buildings, the liturgy, the music, everything just got ugly. Ugly, lies, chaos, consumerism, capitalism, money, more, jealousy, status, fame, subscribers. Listen, is capitalism good? Yeah, I guess so, because it brought people out of poverty, but then also, where did their souls go? So, when you really look at it, so that's an amazing story, by the way, Ari, that's amazing. I'm so blessed. I pray for Muslims. I really do. Every single day I pray for Muslims. I pray for Muslims across the world. There are millions that are secretly coming to Christ, not the Catholic Church, but at least to Christ. There are millions. There's someone that put out a website of, have you seen this guy based in white and he called himself Jesus? I think that was in Cairo, Egypt. It was on a bus stop. Was it like almost 1 million people went to that website, or 1 million people submitted stories about hearing or dreaming of this guy Jesus. And 42 million people have gone to the website. I'm getting chills. Think about that. 42 million people. Muslim countries, I don't know, they have to just rule by force now. Because if Jesus is showing up in dreams, in mass, you're done. You're done. You're done. Like, the stories that I've heard by ex-Muslims of Mary showing up and they're in tears, they've never felt love before. Like, I can't give you that. That's divine. That is the Lord just imagine that one just, you know what? Let's go into Iran. You know, like I know obviously you have everything going on there, but if you look at pre-Iran, before the 1980s, it's a little bit different. Very Christian, a lot of Christian countries. And they will become, you know, I think a good thing is, I think it's the UAE. I don't know if it's the UAE. They just built their second cathedral, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, why heretical, Daniel? Well, yeah, I think the filioque and something else. But listen, I cannot get out of the Catholic Church. It is so deep. There are so many books. There's so much truth. The truth is, it literally tells you why things happened. That's the difference. It doesn't say, oh, by the way, the French Revolution happened. They're saying the French Revolution was a monarchy. The government submitted to the church because the church submitted to Christ. So that means the government submitted to Christ, which is the church. Everything was run by Christ. That's a pretty good system until the government took over and then murdered and subjugated the church, and now it's just a monarch. And they're not subservient to the church. The church is subservient to the monarch, to the government. Okay? In the United States, we had believers who didn't submit to anyone. Well, they did, the Lord, but then once you remove that whole angle, kind of weird, huh? Now they don't submit to anyone except we submit to them. That was never the case ever in governmental history. It was always the government submits to the church, who submits to the Lord. So that means the government submits to the Lord. Now we submit to the government through force. Little interesting. And I know everyone talks about the republic, you know, the constitutional republic's the best thing ever. A little debatable around that, by the way, because the government is now the force. But before that, it was your soul. So the government was like, I don't want to do anything against the actual church. And this was actual Catholicism, where the whole holy day, which is now holiday, every holy day was observed by the government because it was observed, king and queen, it was observed by the church. So every holy day was a holiday. Now a holiday is July 4th and whatever. Okay, so I can go so deep into it. I'm obviously not going to make everything public, but you know, you start thinking about it. Anyway, any other questions? Keep on going. Honestly, don't know what that is. Daniel, just trying to learn. I'm not even anti-Catholic. I have Catholic friends. Yeah, I think the best way to go through church history is to read from books that are at the Angelus or Angelus Press, at TAN, T-A-N, publishers, at Augustine. Any Catholic publishers are putting out actual Catholic content. Like the two books that I just read. One which was popes in the church, so that removes the question that someone had about the pope and the should I Eastern Orthodox, should I not go, whatever the case is, number one. Number two is it was about fasting, was the second book that I picked up. Unbelievable book on fasting, prayer, abstinence, how it changed, what we should be doing. They have tiers in the end of the book. Actually, I'll leave on this because now we're going on crazy amounts of time with you guys, as much as I love you, even though I don't know any of you yet. So they have tiers. Well, I don't know if you could see all of that. Tiers, abstinence, no flesh meat is to be consumed on any Friday in the year with no exceptions. No flesh meat is to be consumed throughout all of Lent from Ash Wednesday through Holy Saturday including Sundays. This is just tier 1, by the way. By the time we get to tier 3 of fasting and abstinence, it literally says everything from tier 1 and 2 plus the following. Abstinence of the Virgin of the Purification of Our Laity. That's February 1st. Vigil of Corpus Christi, which just happened. Vigil of St. Loris. Have you heard of these? No, but they were normal forever. Okay? So when people talk about this, then they have extras. I want that. I want to go through my calendar and have it the Catholic calendar. I want to live like a true Catholic, because living chaste and not, my brain is so free. My brain is free. There's no thoughts of bad thoughts. Like, yes, there's, of course, as Father Ripperger says, you're oppressed. Everyone's oppressed. But then you could be obsessed. So you're obsessed with sports or gambling or, not of the world. And then you're possessed. And I would say that I was possessed of alcohol. I was obsessed with worldly things, and I was oppressed. So it's essentially stages. And obviously it's not 1, 2, 3. There's gradual. And when people think possessed, they think, crazy, running up and down the subways and everything else. But what if it's possessed with jealousy, or your body not the way that you want it to be, or possessed with, alcohol, drugs, acting out on this stuff that is disgusting. It was banned. Catholic Church was always at war with the world because it was banned. All of this OF nonsense was banned. Hollywood, with all their nonsense, banned. Look at Hollywood versus the Catholic Church. In the 1920s, 30s, was really when contraception was okayed in the conference of, someone tell me it. It was the first Protestants that, oh my gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. It was the first Protestants to say, you know what, we don't say it's fine, but we're not going to demonize it for being wrong. And then through the next decades, they all just said it's fine. Contraception, and from contraception, everything just fell apart. Everything from the Lambda Conference, that's what it was. The Lambda Conference changed everything. There was no recourse if you have intimate relationships before marriage. There was no recourse if you're having intimate relations outside of your wife because you have contraception. And now there's a whole thing of being free. You don't have to be under the shackles of marriage. You don't have to be under the shackles of getting married early. You don't have to be under the shackles of this whole thing known as being chaste, going until the end of your death, even if you're not married. Just sleep around. And then you have the sexual revolution of the 60s and 70s. And then from that time, the Catholic Church, unfortunately, had no influence on society. So it's now really bottom up. Bottom up. It's us, the laity, instead of the top down. So I can go further into a lot of that stuff, but the Lambda Conference changed everything. Protestantism changed everything. There's a book by Pope John VI. I think I just read it. I've been reading a lot of books on Catholic teaching by Catholic authors. By the way, don't buy it from the satanic organization known as Amazon. But the book that I just read, Humane Vitae, which is human, Vitae, so it's obviously Latin. Latin never is a dead language. We just got rid of it. The Catholic Church got dismantled after Vatican II. But Humane Vitae is essentially the Catholic Church's stance against contraception and what would happen. And I have a video coming out next week that you got to watch. And it talks all about what happened from the 1800s, 1884, where the word contraception was first invented. And Catholic scientists, were the ones who were putting this out there because they needed credibility and some authority within the church to say to Catholics that it's okay to sleep outside of marriage and to use contraception. And oh man, just an absolute destruction from that. Government makes no sense if it isn't run with remembrance of God, divinity, Christ, otherwise it's tyranny. Every single government through history is completely wrong except when the government submits to the church. And the church is actually the church. In other words, that was the greatest flourishing ever in any time. Look at the cathedrals, the art, the statues. the ceilings, that everything was oriented and pointed to God. Everyone submitted to the church. Everything was good until nonsense just started corrupting the church. And then the church weakened its positions a little bit. And then the government just came, England, France, Germany, just wiped out all throughout. Just look at all throughout Europe, all throughout, there's some strongholds in the East that are still Catholic, but they got wiped out. In Russia, you just feel bad. You even feel bad for the Orthodox in Ukraine. Look up the history of Ukraine. That's a doozy. Or, a couple other countries that are still holding strong. So we need you guys. Anyway, God works in mysterious ways. Well, so does Satan, unfortunately, except his ways don't even realize they're happening because we're looking to make sense of the sins. Exactly, Dave Lopez, exactly, is that you make sense, you don't make sense because it's Satan who's making sense of it for you. You are justifying the sin. You are justifying drinking or going to a bar, or just listen to what the Catholic Church said about dancing or bad music or music in general. It's infecting the ears. It's infecting your fleshly desires. And you're like, oh no, that's just too much. Well, this is what happens. To the logical conclusion, this is what happens. That's why the title of the video, Satan Takes Over. All right? So anyway, appreciate all of you guys. I'm going to be going to eat a salad because I'm starving. I'm live for almost 2 hours, 45 minutes. I'm going to be going live about my story next Wednesday, probably around the same time. Enjoy your weekend. Say the rosary. Okay, this right here saved my life. It saved my soul, which saved my life. So my soul is more important than my life. Like if I died, all right, who cares? But if I died and I'm in hell, that is not good. So the devil almost had me many times for not only a whole year or my whole life, but up until the last year. Highly recommend this book. Send me a DM on Instagram. There's also a forum if you want me to talk about any topics. Say the rosary. Pray for people on the conversions of souls. Fast regularly. Abstain from stuff that you do not like, stuff that you do like social media, like sugar, like alcohol, like social media, which I already said, from the comment section, from X, from Twitter, from YouTube, whatever the case is. Fast from gaming, distractions, Hinge, whatever. I can have a whole thing about dating, okay? Because right now I'm doing it the way that Father Rippinger in his movie, it shows how much I need food right now. Father Rippinger's YouTube video called Courting. And I was close to courting this one woman, beautiful woman, on fire for the Lord, very holy. And I was still in mortal sin. I told her at an 8-hour date, at the end of it, 9-hour date. And yeah, because church it was 10:30 to 12 because I go to the TLM. Then we went out from 12 to about 9:30, 9:45, and then we sat in our car. And I was like, listen, I need these mortal sins out of my body. I need it out of my soul. I cannot pursue this. I cannot court you anymore. Obviously, there's no physical touch. There's obviously no alcohol. Everything is during the day. I think I made a video about this. I don't know. Maybe it's coming out. Maybe it's not coming out. I know I have a video coming out on Sunday about staying chaste. And it is not the way that TikTok says to date, especially for women. Women look for how much money they have. Men look for how pretty she is. Okay, yeah, does she fear the Lord? That's why there's so many divorces. Nobody fears the Lord. That's a sacrament being broken. If you're sacramentally married in the Catholic Church, that's a pretty grave, brutal sin to be doing. Unless there's obviously some very bad things. But if you're like, we fell out of love. No, then you were in lust. That's really what it comes down to. So, yeah, of course it's called praying. You don't have to do anything. Yeah, by the way, I'll leave you this. Can I say the rosary if I'm not Catholic? Of course. This is what I recommend. This is actually a good video. If someone is not Catholic, I highly recommend you do what I did, which was wrestle with God. I know Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan Peterson, he goes, oh, the Jewish people wrestled with God. Israel wrestled with God. I'm like, yeah, fantastic. But take it to the logical conclusion today by someone who's not even a believer, let alone Israel or the Jews of the Old Testament. But like today, I am someone who essentially is not a believer, not me, but someone else. I'm not a believer. I don't take it to I'm a believer, but I'm not Catholic. Wrestle, do what I did. Lord, I don't even know if you exist. I don't even know if there is a God. I'm in occult stuff. I'm doing breath work. I'm astral projecting, which I was doing. Putting my soul, which I think on another realm, unseen realm. I have no idea. I'm getting attacked demonically, but I don't even know that. So I'm literally calling out, like, I don't even know if you're true. I don't know if there was a guy named Jesus Christ. I don't know if he was actually divine and human at the same time. He was two different so do that. And all the people of the testimonials that were in Muslim countries, that were atheists, that were agnostic, that were doing that. Ironically enough, a lot of them say that's where it started. They called out in a fit of rage, a fit of anger, a fit of I can't believe this happened, a fit of I don't believe in you, a fit just, you think God's offended? You go up and be like, I don't think you're real. It's like, no, wrestle with God. If you truly do not believe, if you truly have no idea, if you do want to say the rosary for the first time, do the rosary, number one. But number two is wrestle with God. You think God's going to be offended? Don't do it in an arrogant way, but do it in a way where you're truly, like he knows your heart already. He already knows your heart. He knows you're mad because somebody that you really loved either passed away or they are not dating you or you lost your job or something happened in your child. The Lord already knows. What are you nuts? You don't think he already knows? He knows you better than you know yourself. He has everything on record. Everything's on record. And he knows what's going to happen to you. So go into your free will and wrestle with the Lord if you're not a believer. Even now, I'm like, I don't know if this woman's my wife. I don't know if I'm ready for marriage. I don't know if I am even called to marriage. I have no idea because earlier this year, I was arrogantly and ignorantly saying, oh, I'm being called to the Lord. And I'm still in mortal sin. Dude, what are you talking about? One of the priests is like, yeah, it's not going to change that you're still in mortal sin by getting married. So you're going to have to handle the mortal sin first before you even consider the discernment of marriage. So for me, I'm like, stay chaste, stay sober, be in prayer, say the rosary, and just keep me alive, Lord, and just proselytize and just speak your word and learn about all you have to offer. That's really what it comes down to me. And for me, I have a calling for men to get out of their sinful, lazy, wicked, slothful, fleshly, pleasurable desires. That's the best way to say it, because I was in that. So, yes, you could say the rosary. I pray. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the rosary. It's just the Hail Mary prayer. They do it in football. Yes. So thank you, Dave. Thank you for the conversations. Let's end on a prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, thank you for the live today. Thank you for the super chats. They were the first ones. Obviously, that money, a lot of that money will be going to the church. I will pray over that money before it goes to the church. I thank all the people that are on this live. I thank everyone that tuned in. Anyone that's going through anything when it comes to health, when it comes to their job, when it comes to relationships, their family, their spouse. We know there's a lot of people that are fallen away Catholics. We understand there's a lot of people that do not believe in the Lord. There's a lot of people that are depressed, anxious, anxiety. We understand that the Lord is all-powerful. He's everywhere all at once, at every single moment of time, even though he's outside of time. May the Lord, through dreams, visions, through conversations, through something, touch, through any way possible, all these people that are afflicted, all these people that are, say, outside of the church, those that believe in different faiths, those that are corrupting the faith that they know and know the one true, holy, and apostolic faith. We also do pray for all those that are watching, that they come into grace through confession, they come through faith, after confession and believe that the Lord is actually with them at all times. They can be called upon not only in the morning and at night, but at all times through any of the hardest things. And if they know someone that is going through something awful, terrible, whether they know them or not know them, Lord covers them with the blood at Calvary, the precious blood of your Son, Jesus Christ. And we ask this all in the name of the Lord. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Thank you, everyone. And I will see you guys next Wednesday and give you the real big lowdown on what it was like to go through the wicked times during the last 6 months with the rosary, with the prayers, with my bout of in and out of drinking, in and out of acting on fleshly desires, in and out, just a lot. So